Test, 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 test. Testing 1, 2. For the people who've showed up in minutes, so just stand by. We're going to be able to introduce everything that's going to happen in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Siri, turn on my do not disturb.
There we go. Hello, hello.
Yeah, that's all out. So that we can just put this back in my bag right here.
Doing the same thing.
Rick, I'm extremely sorry. I think there's something going on. Maybe you have some extremely
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Hey, can we get the volume up on this? Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing. Okay, good. Okay, everybody, if we can get everybody seated, we're getting ready to start the show. This will be one of the first ones that we started on time. So we can get everybody seated. Panelists, if you guys can sit in the front row until we actually start the run of show. All panelists, JP, Sterlina, we'll get you guys seated in the front row here. So I appreciate everybody coming out. We know that there's traffic. This is a Friday. So the fact that we got you here is really good. And if we can get everybody to kind of get a little closer to the front row, get comfortable. Get comfortable next to each other. Let's fill in these seats. If we can, the people in the third and second row, because we're filming this, we want to see if you guys can not just be seat fillers, but active in the first couple of rows here. Okay, I'm going to start it off by actually introducing myself, and then I want to see if I can get some other folks in the room to introduce themselves. Okay, my name is Kevin. Last name is Clark, Dakar Foundation for the Performing Arts. I'm a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm actually interested in getting young people. There's a couple of folks in the room here who are part of our apprenticeship program. I'm actually looking to grow the apprenticeship banner by making sure that everybody walks away tonight asking questions about what does apprenticeship mean in Long Beach. Apprenticeship is a very important component to creating a smart pipeline to workforce. And as one of the components of apprenticeship, we've got now something called pre-apprenticeship. There's a lot of money that's available. It's actually available under the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship Program. And they're going to be rolling out another round of funding in October. So if you can even go on your phone and look at the Department of Apprenticeship Standards, you will see that there's funding. Almost $50 million is going to be available for folks to get pre-apprenticeship proposals in October. They just awarded $30 million about 2 days ago. So this not just funding, but this is really infrastructure set up for everybody to get into the high schools and community colleges to introduce what apprenticeship means, the world of work, so it can connect to apprenticeship programs in industries that will connect people to long-term career opportunities in high growth areas and industries. So apprenticeship is really going to be important for us to be able to remember today. I also want to be able to thank LEDC and the California Community Foundation for giving us a chance in that card. We have 2 more events after tonight. So we're going to different regions of LA County. We're here in Long Beach tonight, but we're going to be in San Fernando Valley this Tuesday, the 30th. And then Wednesday, we're going to be in the Crenshaw District. And that'll be the last event that's going to be public. We're going to be doing a couple of events that will be more private for districts, supervisors districts 1 and supervisors district 5. But the purpose for us here today is not only to just have a conversation, but we need you guys' help in filling out some surveys. Because these surveys are going to give us an opportunity to find out what your unmet needs are. And if we don't know what those unmet needs are, we can't put them in a report to figure out where we're going to spotlight funding and resources for you guys to be able to build your communities up. The 4 areas we're looking for in research are disinvested communities. Disinvested communities are really important for you guys to be able to ensure that we know exactly what you guys need to be able to be invested again. The other one is environmental justice. Very important that we understand what environmental justice is and what it isn't. The third one is sustainability or the zero carbon net initiatives. And the fourth one is workforce. That's my wheelhouse, workforce. How do we get people into careers that are going to be high paying, not just minimum wage job, but high paying careers, not jobs. So that's our goal really, is to take those 4 pillars and to put people in positions where they can tell us a little bit more about their needs so we can have recommendations and things that we can do to make this thing a community win for everybody. So we're going to start the show in a few minutes. I wanted to be able to introduce our panelists. So I'm going to ask the panelists to come up to the stage now. I'm going to thank you. Yeah, give them a round of applause because they got something to say. I guess you guys can come up either side. Right. And for those who are online, we have a QR code that you guys can see. And that QR code is going to allow you to fill out the information that we need to know who, what, why, where, and how California Jobs First can help you. So please, if anybody online, the QR code will take you to the survey. And everybody that's in here that scanned the QR code or didn't get a QR code, we have paper and pencils to make sure that you fill out that form and get it back to us before the evening lets out. Okay? So let's make sure that we have fun and we have questions for everything that you hear on this panel. We're going to make sure that these folks give you a short burst of who, what, why, where, and how they became panelists and became subject matter experts in their area. But if you guys, again, can literally ask questions at the end of their speech, not during the middle, but just at the end. So for right now, we're going to start with trying to bring our host who's coming in virtually, Jay Tucker. Is Jay available?
I'm here.
For us? All right, so let's bring Jay in.
Greetings, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. As Kevin out the state of LA County, about some of the economic opportunities and challenges, we'll get into some career pathways, conversations, and other things. We have this incredible group of people who will be here to talk to you today. I'm going to ask our panelists to go ahead and introduce themselves one at a time, and we'll start, I think, with Stella and take it from there.
Hello.
Testing.
My name is Stella Ursula. I'm the director for Grid Alternatives. We're a nonprofit 501c3 solar installation company, and we work all throughout LA County. And our goal is to connect folks to solar clean energy, and we do that at no cost to the family. And so we help families save between 50 to 80% on their energy bill. And on the other side of that coin, we help
You did a lot. That's a tough act to follow. I'm S. Michelle Blackwell. I am the founder and programs director for a production company, BDP Entertainment Group, as well as a nonprofit organization, Hollywood Backdoor Alliance United, or HBAU. And we have a youth program, pre-apprenticeship program that deals with the entertainment industry, arts, media, entertainment, sports, and tech. And now we're introducing an entrepreneurial program for young people who want to get involved. The Hollywood Production Assistant Program, or the Hollywood PA program, can be found at hollywoodpap.org. That's a wrap. I can keep going. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sterlina Cerritos. I am the Director of Business Development for West Cal Academy. And I am also a high school dropout. I got my GED. I had a lack of work experience up until my 20s. A lot of students go through that blight. So I'm going to leave it up to JP on my left to explain exactly what West Cal Academy is in a little more detail.
Oh, okay, thank you. My name is Dr. John Paul Tavakian. Please don't call me doctor anything. I'm not a medical doctor. If you break your leg, I cannot help you. That's my opening. Thank you for inviting us. I'm the founding president of West Cal Academy, the state's largest pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship linkage program. And we're going to have a great conversation today about what exactly an apprenticeship is and why it is the future for the state of California and our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. So I want to start with a couple things. In our other gatherings, we started those conversations with an exposition of research about the county, where we stand, what's going on. We'll make sure that we provide some of that information for those of you in the audience who haven't had a chance to see it. Today, we're going to spend a little bit more time actually talking to people who are actually working to capitalize on some of the opportunities in the region. So I'm just going to ask each person, and we'll start at the other end, this time with JP, Could you please talk about the opportunity that you see and how your organization is addressing it?
Sure. Well, COVID really shook things up. A lot of our young people, disenfranchised and not, are now questioning higher education on an investment, and they're right. And I'm a doctor of education, and they're absolutely right. So one of the areas that we've identified is the need for on-the-job training and employer-sponsored training programs. In other words, apprenticeships. So one of the greatest challenges that we're addressing is educating government policymakers who seem to know, they think they know a lot, they don't know squat, what exactly an apprenticeship is. And we've been doing this by bringing in industry professionals, people who are actually on the front lines, educating people of all demographics to be sponsored in a training program with on-the-job training. One of the most interesting things that and I'm still learning, okay? And one of the most interesting things about areas of the most need, but most people don't realize, is Avalon. Catalina Island is one of the poorest areas of our county. But again, it's all based on hospitality. The people who are multi-generational raised there, there's very little opportunities for developmental growth in terms of in a career pathway. In terms of socioeconomic settings, it may look pretty, but there is a great need. And in terms of cleaning up our environment, we're talking about, the need for carbon neutral and all these great things. Did you know that Catalina Island is powered by diesel and propane? That's it. All the electricity is diesel and propane. So we've been promising to turn it clean for decades, but still it's powered by diesel and propane. And that tells me that.
Can you talk more, though, JP, about your organization and what opportunity you're pursuing?
So what we've been doing is, in our pre-apprenticeship program, we are educating the people about all apprenticeship opportunities. So, for example, we bring in the high schools and in the probation halls and camps, areas that people have ignored, bringing in solar tech, clean energy, bringing in carpentry, bringing in non-traditional apprenticeships like business and finance, to excite them about what opportunities are there, because a lot of them don't know. They think they have to go into debt in order to get a high-paying job. So we're actually bringing in the apprenticeships through our program into those environments. So I want you to imagine this scenario, because a lot of your parents, we come in, your young one enrolls in West Cal Academy. Okay, it's a 100-hour pre-apprenticeship where, think of a buffet where you're having a taste of different courses, a little Mexican, a little Chinese going on, a little Italian, and you're just seeing, hey, Johnny, what's up, man? And you're seeing, hey, I like this dish right here. Oh, this is carpentry. That's cool. Now, the program gets you prepared for that apprenticeship, but at the same time, okay, we're issuing 6 units of UC credit for every kid who completes our program. We're the only pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship linkage program that issues UC credit, because a lot of kids may want to go for higher ed, and that's great. A lot of parents are resistant to apprenticeship because they've been brainwashed to think that only higher education is the answer for their child's success. So we cover all areas. And then we link our students with the best apprenticeship programs that the state has to offer. And we partner with them, and we provide them with the support. And we're not going to go to anyone here on this panel and go, hey, where's my cut? I just referred Billy to you. I hear you got a grant. Hey, come on, grease the palm here a little bit. Where's my cut? We don't do that. What we want to have is a pathway for our kids to be successful. And that is the greatest blessing when one of our kids comes back to us and says, yo, JP, I bought a house. Seriously. Or I'm 18 years old. I make $100,000 a year as a machinist. Damn. and that's really what we're driving at.
All right, Sterlina, I'm going to ask you to pick up on that because I know, you talked a little bit about your background. I think part of this opportunity, when I think about what we can do here in the county, has to do with reclaiming people where we haven't necessarily invested in them in the past, and or if they found themselves on the wrong side of the law enforcement and correctional system, or have been kind of left out of opportunities in other ways. Can you talk a little bit more about how your background has you looking at our population and folks that we can serve?
Yes, of course. I would like to just kind of jump off of JP's point about West Cal because it does weave into my story. But one of the tools that I think someone needs on their pathway to success is work experience. And how that weaves into my story is because I remember being 15. I'm 30 now, so 15 years ago, that's right. I'm right halfway. And it was yesterday. And when I was 15, I had the desire to work. I didn't need to work because my parents, both immigrants from El Salvador, came here, established a small business in Koreatown, and made enough just to get the family by. So my mom felt that it wasn't necessary for me to work hard to make money because, according to her, you have a roof over your head, you have clothes on your back, you have food on the table. What else could you want? But I wanted that work experience. I wanted to experience the world. I wanted to, start growing up, cultivate who I was. So I had no mentorship. And that's another tool that I think someone needs on their pathway to success is mentorship and work experience. So two things that I was lacking. And I was a very punk girl at 15. I had purple hair, I had piercings on my face, I wore fishnets and everything. So when I went around the neighborhood and asking for a paper application, which was how you did it at the time, no one wanted to take me. No one told me, hey, you want to dress professionally, present yourself professionally when you're seeking a job. So failure number one. And then the next thing was I waited some time. I got kicked out of high school. Again, I was a very bad kid, in with the wrong crowd. So when I matured a little more when I was 20, I decided to get a job at Jamba Juice. So I go to Jamba Juice on Wilshire and Western, and I went in there saying I'd like to apply for a job. They said, okay, fine. I got a phone call interview. I thought I did a great job. I said, I answered the stereotypical, why would you like to work here? And I said, well, I think I have the energy. I'm athletic. I think that presents that's a good reflection of Jamba Juice. It's healthy. I reflect that. I'm young. And they said, okay, yeah, good answer. I went in for a second interview, which is crazy. It's Jamba Juice. I'm not interviewing for the FBI. It's so rigorous. So I went in for the in-person interview, and they later told me a week after that I did not get the job because I didn't have the work experience. And I remember verbatim, I said, but I make smoothies at home. What's the difference? And they just said, sorry, you're just not the person we're looking for. We need someone with more experience, at least 5 years of experience to work here at Jamba Juice. So that was very discouraging. I stopped looking for a job after that. So it's a story that I come across a lot when connecting with students, whether in JP's classes, whether we're in the probation halls and camps, whether we're in LBUSD. A lot of students don't know what they want to do. And I want to be, to those students, what I needed at 15. So that's one of the issues that West Cal is addressing, is having these students obtain work experience through our pre-apprenticeship program, and also securing a mentor, because those are the two tools that I think are the most critical when it comes to someone on their pathway to success. Thank you.
I love that. And we'll come back to this in a minute, but I want to make sure that you talk a little bit more about building those relationships too, because what you and JP are doing, is on the front lines with people. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm really curious about this Hollywood Backdoor Alliance United, which up until 30 seconds ago, I was unaware. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the organization does and how it got started?
What's interesting is that she said work experience and mentorship, which is exactly what we do at the Hollywood HBAU, or Hollywood Backdoor Alliance United, because you're right. You can have all the energy and all the, oh, I want to do this and I can do it and I can learn and I'm young and hire me. And people are like, well, nobody else is taking a risk on you. So why should I be the first? Nope. And then even with apprenticeships and internships and things like that, you still get people who go, you don't have any experience. Yep. Well, that's exactly why you're there. Why would I need experience to come intern? What are you? So at our program, now when I hired people, they were looking and they were scanning the applications and resumes, and they're like, well, this person, they worked at Jack in the Box or they worked at McDonald's or they don't have any experience. I'm like, they're in. Because what are we doing here? We're not looking for experienced people, because then you have to pay them all this money, blah, blah, blah. Young people, they're there, they can make a wage, right? It's not like we're trying to cheat them. Like adults, we'll give them a little more and we won't. No, everybody gets a wage, but young people do not need to have experience, because I'm going to teach them the mentorship. Myself, I've been in the business for 30 years. Actually, I've been in the business. My first commercial was as a baby, but we're not going to go that far because that's a little bit too much information. But still, a mentor is very important, and work experience. My production company, BDP Entertainment Group, is who hires, right? So we are a real company. We produce real shows. We sell scripts. We do all this kind of stuff. And HBAU allows youth to come in, because we're a nonprofit that way, allows people to come in, do apprenticeship, and get that. I mentor so tough and so good that people make my mentorship, like what I teach them, their business. So, which is literally why we started an entrepreneurial program, so that people who think, oh, I can produce, I can write, I can make flower baskets for Hollywood, we teach them how to do that. So it's like we're trying to cover we're trying to cover all bases without like stepping in anybody else's lane. So apprenticeships, mentorships, internships, work experience, it's all hand in hand. And at HBAU, BDP Entertainment Group, that's what we do.
That's that challenge where you have entry-level positions at this point. And by the way, for those of you who are not aware, the level of unemployment in the United States is at historical lows, right? Documented unemployment is at 4%-ish, somewhere around there. In the state of California, it's also extremely low. We know that doesn't mean that it's evenly 4% across all communities, but I want you to think about what that means for employers. When we get to a point where unemployment is 4%, that means that there are tons of employers who are desperately looking for people to fill roles. And yet, when we talk about entry-level roles, there are so many employers who are still looking to fill entry-level positions with experienced employees, right? And so what you are doing is obviously a blessing to the community, because you're actually, bridging a gap that can't be bridged. A couple of wins, maybe some things that have happened positive that you've seen over the last couple of months, that you want to kind of pat yourself on the back with, just so that our audience can.
Question for me or for Michelle?
Oh, sorry. Okay. I was like half listening because I thought it was for you. Okay.
As a follow-up question, I do that sometimes. So can you talk a little bit about you are closing a gap that is critical, because we have employers that are looking to fill entry-level jobs with people that have experience. And I was wondering if you could just share a few of your successes for the audience so that they can hear a little bit more about the impact of what you did.
Right. So we just literally had a cohort. It was it was 20. There's an echo. It's a time delayed echo. Okay, there we are. Okay. Apprentices, right? They're allowed. Okay, so we had a cohort during COVID, like 2020, 2021. And we had several people who come. Now, again, Dr. P, people have degrees. They go to school, they get these degrees, but they don't have any experience, right? They don't have any experience. So they need apprenticeships and internships and all this kind of stuff. But they have to, do something because they have those loans, most of them. So people we had a group that came in and there were 3 women who had degrees. And they were like, I want to get in the entertainment industry. I just don't know how. I don't have any experience. What do I do? Let them come in. All 3 of them. One is at Warner Brothers, which is where we were earlier this week. One is at a talent agency, and one is at a wine hospitality, the wine industry. They do a lot of their filming and stuff at Stella Rosa, which is my thing. But they didn't have any experience. And what I realized is that one employer trusting them gives them that leg up on people who just have college degrees. And I'm proud of that, Jay. Very, very proud. And I want to do it more. How do I do it more?
Can I just make a quick comment that about one employer giving an apprentice a chance gives them a leg up? It's kind of like when you're at a store or the little coffee shop and they have a jar of tips. No one's going to want to put money inside until the store owner puts the 5 inside, and then people follow suit. Yeah.
Well, and I want to jump, well, I got to jump in one part here. I agree with everything that everyone has said, with one asterisk. The nightmare is when a young person says, okay, I'm going to go into college. I'm going to go to community college, university, whatever. And their counselor is an idiot. And the counselor says, don't get work experience in your field. Just focus on your schooling right now. Get a lot of loans. The experience will come. That counselor must be fired. Stupid. The parents are stupid. Sorry. But they are stupid. And the parents say, you know what? I worked hard when I was your age. I'm now in the middle income or higher. I'm going to pay. Don't worry about it. Billy's, Jennifer, whatever. Just focus on school. Then the kid graduates. They're in their 20s. They haven't done squat. They don't know anything. And they try and get a job. Now they're going to get an internship to get the experience, right? All right. Here's your nightmare. Here's our nightmare as a society. Billy shows up. An employer is willing to give Billy the time of day. Here's the internship. And Billy says, I hate this. I don't like this. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hate this. Why did I do this major? Why did I get all these loans? And you know who's going to pay for that? All of you. As we keep forgiving loans for a bunch of idiots and their parents who are stupid, and the counselors who keep this stupid system running and running and running. What I would like to see now more is and I'm glad we've met. Thank you so much for bringing us all together. Hey, Billy is 13, 14 years old. Let's put him in our pre-apprenticeship program. Let's introduce Billy to all these cool opportunities. Hey, employer, can Billy go and shadow and check out what you like to do? Now, one of 2 things is going to happen. Billy's going to say, JP, I hate this. I want to be a doctor. I want to be in construction. Get me out of here. Billy, let me give you a hug. That's the greatest thing in the world. You found out as a kid that this is not for you. Or Billy says, dude, this is cool. I love this. What are the next steps? I'm 48 years old, and my heart is like 5. I get to travel the state with Sterlina. I go visit all the most coolest construction programs, merchant marine ships, Now I'm going to go hang out in your studio. I'm definitely going to go hang out and install solar panels. And I get to go and have fun like a little kid and take our students and go, check this out. Let's go have some fun today. Because again, I'm 48 years old. I had shop. I had carpentry. I had home ec. That's where you meet the girls. And I became a chef. Like, we had all those vocational programs. And then I had theater. It was great. Young people today, they don't have anything. And you want to talk about, how do we address the issues of inequity among people of color? Here's one for you. In all the counties, where are most of these vocational programs provided for? It ain't LA, it's Tehama. You want to go look white central? Go to Tehama. I go to Tehama. They have construction tech for 12, 13-year-olds. They have machine shop for 13-year-olds, for little kids, and they look nothing like LA.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
This is my thing. And I'm not like, I don't own Hollywood, right? But I tell people, I told you, I was like, stump me. Tell me a job that isn't or can't be done in Hollywood. Construction. Oh, every single set needs construction people. Doctors, medics. There's always a doctor on every single studio, every single set. Oh, what about dentistry, Michelle? I was like, if you can't work in the industry, you can work on the peripheral. There are dentists that cater specifically to Hollywood. They promote themselves. Somebody said, oh, my uncle has a taco truck. Hello, every single studio, every single set has catering.
Cool.
Everything you can imagine. Stump me. Somebody said dog walking. I was like, every single studio has pet parents that need people to come. There is nothing. So when somebody tells you they hate that, send them to me. Tell them, well, you want to work in AME, arts, media, and entertainment? I can get you work.
Awesome.
Because there's always something for I design clothes. Hello. They got wardrobe. Oh, well, I like makeup. They have makeup. Hello. What? IT. They got cybersecurity, sweetheart. Tell me something that you cannot do in Hollywood, and I'll give you $100. Nobody, one person, okay. And I had to tell him, I said, if it's not legal to do in regular America, it's not illegal to do in Hollywood either. Because he said, sell weed. You can't sell weed. No. Yeah, you stumped me. I gave him $100 because he stumped me. Leave it to the young people. They'll do it. No, sir, you can't sell drugs or pimp. Sorry, no. But any other industry, art, anything,
Wow.
anything, any single thing, you can do it. You want to sell t-shirts? Hello? Sell them at sports events. Hello. Any single thing you just need to know. And what we do is we teach you how, if you're in marketing, how to market a regular business. Oh, my mom makes cookies and cakes. Yep. We're going to teach you how to do social media and promote your aunt's cookie shop in entertainment magazines, rags, and on their sites. So here you go. So there is nothing. Send them to me. Send them to me. I hate this. I want to do something else. You want to skateboard? We got that.
Awesome.
Every single thing. I'm sorry, Stella.
That was great.
So with that, I want to bring in Stella, because going beyond entertainment, I want to talk about how we can have opportunities where people will learn valuable skills, get gainfully employed, and also be able to create a positive social impact. Stella, can you talk a little bit more about the journey, the training, the value, et cetera?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jay. And thanks, everybody. Great examples, great conversation. And so just real quick, I heard a young man by the name of Van Jones talk in 2008 about green jobs. And I was like, what the heck is a green job, right? Had no idea what it was. But I read his book. It was called The Green Collar Economy. He was President Obama's first green job czar. And I said, I like this. I want to get behind this. I had spent my entire career in corporate America. And I said, now I want to do this. Started working with veterans to introduce them to green jobs. There weren't very many green jobs back in 2009, right? But little by little, things started to build up, right? And so we saw electric cars starting to come, to market. We saw a lot of solar, a lot of like wind turbines and energy efficiency, et cetera, right? And so we got the veterans connected. I think about 49 vets connected to different programs. And then from there, I went and started working with Grid Alternatives and learned a lot about the workforce development component. We were doing only solar back then. This was back in 2016. And so we were graduating students from all over the place, women, youth, veterans, formerly incarcerated, folks that were nearly homeless, folks that needed a lot of help just trying to connect. One of the stories I remember is a young man that spent about 13 years in prison, started to learn about solar panels and solar installation. He loved it, right? He had never had a career like this. He became our supervisor, solar installation supervisor. And he just left a little bit ago. He's starting with another company. He's moving up. He's now a manager, et cetera, right? So there are so many opportunities in, green jobs, if you will, right? Because we are faced with climate change issues right now, right? I'm sure that there are some of you that came from outside of Long Beach. The temperatures are just going up every year. This is the hottest year. They've been saying that now for the last 5 years. This was the hottest year ever. Then the next year comes, this is the hottest year ever, right? Yeah, and it just keeps going up and up, right? And so we know that this is the future, unfortunately. We're going to have more 100+ degree days. So what are the professions that will help to address this situation? So it's not just solar. We need project managers. We need engineers. We need energy efficiency experts. We need folks that can work on those huge wind turbines. They're talking about doing wind turbines right out here outside of the port, right? Who's going to do that work, right? At your utilities, right? Whether it's Southern California Edison or LA Department of Water and Power, those folks want to retire. They've been working there for 30+ years. They want to retire. Who's going to take those jobs? Those are some good ass jobs, excuse me. Those are really well-paid people. And that's why they've been there for so long. And so to the parents in the audience, I got to say, help us get your kids focused on these careers, because this stuff is not going away. Climate change is happening. You see all the fires, you see the floods, you see the devastation from that. We need to rebuild, right? So there's jobs in construction that are green jobs, jobs in utilities, jobs in solar, jobs in energy efficiency, remediation. I can go on and on and on. Every aspect, even Hollywood, they need
I can get you work.
Yeah, absolutely. They need folks that will teach them how to become more energy efficient, right? So I can find you a green job in any industry, Jay. Any industry, I could find a green job, or we can
I
make
love
one.
that. And I would say, one of the things that we haven't said explicitly that people should be thinking about, there are professions out there that are well worn, right? People have been doing them for centuries. The job itself hasn't changed very much, only the tools. And there's kind of like, oh, there's a pathway. You talked about medicine, talked about construction. People have been building things and healing people for a long time. But these green jobs, it's just not the case that there are, people who have 20 years experience in this space, right? Because this wasn't the thing. Now there are, when we talk about wind turbines and solar panels, they've been around for a very long time, but the scale with which we're rolling out these technologies and trying to impact the energy grid and the community, we've never seen that before. So people who are getting in right now, basically are getting in on the ground floor. And this is why the work that you're doing, Stella, is so important, because we're actually providing a pathway that is much needed in a field where these opportunities didn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I want to make sure, because we have two other people that we wanted to bring into this conversation, Damon and Rick. I don't know if we can bring them up on screen because they're remote, but let's see if we can give that a try. I see Rick Presley. I don't know if we have Damon, but maybe Rick, you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you just fine.
Okay, my name's Richard Presley. I'm the CEO of a couple of companies, A Cardios, which is my primary focus right now. You mentioned Long Beach in the conversation just a minute ago. In 2015, one of my companies drove from Tybee Island, Georgia to Long Beach, California in 2 cars without any gasoline. So we've been in the green space for a while. As far as I know, we may be, I think we're the only U.S. manufacturer of solar panels. We've got quite a bit of technology in many different spaces. In 1992, I had written a program that NASA funded where they isolated a crew of us on the bottom of the ocean to simulate a long duration space flight. Our mission objective was to create a prototype information retrieval service that they used on the shuttle program and the International Space Station. I lived underwater. We have the world's first and only underwater hotel, and that is something that you cannot do in Hollywood, but you can save your $100.
You do not get $100, sir.
I lived on the bottom of the ocean for 19 minutes and 69 days to break a world record that was set back in 1969. I wore a device on my left arm. NASA called it an actigraph. 30 years later, y'all call it a Fitbit. So I did not know back then what would happen. They also brought down one of the world's first handheld pulse oximeters to put on my finger to measure my SpO2 saturation. A few years later, my father passed away with myeloplastic syndrome and diabetes. Diabetics do not die from diabetes, they die from coronary artery disease, which is the #1 killer in the world. And we developed a technology that quantifies the elastic indices of your large artery, small artery, peripheral artery, test your left ventricle ejection time, hydration level, O2 sat, and pulse, all in a non-invasive 15-second snapshot. Transmits that to your smartphone or smart TV, uploads it to our national database, and then you can push that to your local healthcare provider if you choose to do so. That technology is being rolled out in Denver International Airport in 53 different locations as we speak. That technology can help eradicate the #1 killer in the world. Regardless of what country you live in, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer. How that sort of also grew the first crop on the bottom of the ocean floor. We grew over 6 different varieties of herbs. That has now transferred into an FDA and NASA study to help increase the nutritional values of everything that's grown on the International Space Station. We have some other technology that can be applied in the green space or blue space, or as we call it now, aqua space, to be able to not only utilize, I'm not going to call it net zero because the electric grid will not even support the electric vehicles that they're trying to mandate. So we can show them how to do that on water. We've been running engines on water for years. There's applications in the green space, blue space, aqua space that has solutions in your backyard. And what another one of my companies does is we bring technology into that local area, because that local area needs to have the people in that local area that's impacted from the problem, and we bring the solutions as hands-on. We build the production lines in that neighborhood, employ people from that neighborhood to build the solution for the problems of that neighborhood. If that makes sense to anybody, you know, I think it does. I think that you know, a lot of people say that or that a lot of my companies and my associates think out of the box, but they're actually wrong. We don't even know there is a box. If you're in a box, you need to get out of it. And one of the things that I heard one of the ladies speak about is persistence. I was turned down 120 times at NASA before the 121st department said, yes, we'll fund that program. So my best attribute is not knowing how to spell no. When somebody tells me no, they think they're telling me N-O. But I know they're telling me K-N-O-W yet. They don't know enough yet. So keep educating them. 30, I just said a few minutes ago, 30 years later, you call a device that we developed 30 years ago something that's on the market, Fitbit. We're now we're building devices to go on our, they have applications from underwater to outer space. We have technology on the Mars moon rover. We had technology on the bottom of the ocean. Catalina should be using ocean tide for their, that is the closest thing you can get to perpetual motion. And, it's funny because after we had made that trek, 2,300 miles, I think, and Fox News covered us all the way across the United States. After we did that, we left Long Beach, California, went back to Las Vegas, spent a couple of days. And then I sat in a boardroom of educated PhDs that told me that we could not do what we just did. They said that I would be breaking the third law of thermodynamics. And I said, what's that? I don't know what it is. So I didn't have that as a limitation for myself to be able to not do that. Okay. It's sort of crazy. And I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop.
I just want to ask you though, when we talk about, so you're the CEO of two companies. The technologies that you're talking about obviously not only have to be imagined, but they have to be designed, developed, and deployed. In your space, I want to get a better sense of, for people who are interested in pursuing higher education, what are the areas of focus that they should be thinking about? And is this a field where an undergraduate degree is enough to be able to start designing and making things? Do folks need to have advanced degrees? Like, how does that work?
Unfortunately, most of the things that I have done, they don't teach in school. There's not a book. That's why we're bringing the production lines. We're bringing the programs. I grew the first crop on the bottom of the ocean floor. Now, who would have even thought of that? It would take somebody crazy to even think about doing that. So 20 or 25 years later, when I see a company make the claim that they grew the first crop on the bottom of the ocean, I'm like, wait a minute, you need to go check this information out, because we actually did it at Marine Resource Development Foundation is one of the companies that I work with. I've been working with them about 40 years. We have the world's first and only underwater hotel. The only way in and only way out is to dive in and dive out. It was the most sophisticated habitat ever designed and ever utilized. I lived underwater for 19 minutes and 69 days because in 1969, a man named Barry Cannon died in an underwater habitat program. It stopped all of NASA, NOAA, and the Navy, and GE, and the Department of Interior's undersea habitation programs. So we launched another program to inspire the world to look at the oceans, because if the oceans die, we die. Nobody's looking at that. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the ocean. Every solution that we need is in that ocean for health. One of my other companies does all plant-derived nutritional products for about 40 cancer clinics. The answer for cancer, we've had it. If anybody wants to challenge me on that, go look at Genesis 2:5 through 2:10. Exodus 23:10 and 11, and Daniel 1:12 will tell you the entire story. How you can not
So-
only.
I
Go
want
ahead,
to
I'm
ask
sorry.
you there. No. It's just that you're rattling off all of these successes. But my question was, how do people prepare themselves through education to be able to push this research forward and to be able to do that stuff?
You know, the only response I would have of that is I had a ninth grade teacher that he was my agriculture teacher. He got me involved in hydroponics and hydrogen. We were sitting in his ninth grade class with a 9-volt battery and a paper clip producing hydrogen.
Right.
I had no idea I would own a hydrogen company in 2005. I had to take that hydrogen company to New Zealand to open the company. We had 17 vehicles in the parking lot running on hydrogen, running on water. How green do you want to get? How blue do you want to get? There wasn't a book to read. They didn't teach it in school except my ninth grade teacher. His name was Clifton Ricketts. He left high school, he was a professor at MTSU University. So I had a wireless company at the time, and my wireless company sponsored the MTSU Sun and Water Tour, where we traveled across, landed in y'all state, stuck our foot in the Atlantic Ocean, got in the car, started driving across the United States, got to Long Beach, California there at one of the parks, stuck our feet in the Pacific Ocean, and we had just navigated across the United States on water. What you got to ask yourself, why are you using oil? I can tell you why. Because of money. There's a lot of money in oil and gas, right? But we have some people freaked out about when we did that on water, but they're really going to be surprised when we show them how to run a car on air.
Okay. All right. So I think we can potentially bring Damon in. I'm not sure if he's ready yet. We can check.
He's pulling up and
he's
about to
pulling
get
up.
in front of the camera.
Okay, so we'll give Damon a minute. In the meantime, I want to go back to Sterlina, as I asked earlier. I want to talk more about this. How do we actually reach young people who maybe have fallen out of a pathway and bring them back? How do you establish trust? How do you get people motivated?
May I jump in on that?
1 second. I want to hear from Sterlina. Hold on. Go ahead, Sterlina.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part of the question?
How do we establish trust, and how do we get people back on the pathway who may have fallen off of it?
So I thank you for asking this question. I do have experience in establishing trust with, especially with a population that has developed a mistrust to anybody. And one of the populations is actually at the LA County probation halls and camps. And when we've had our program running at the Dorothy Kirby Center in Commerce, it's a mix of both young girls and young guys. And those kids have gone through a lot. Some of them are born into very complicated lives, and they come from broken families. Their environments are broken, and deep down, I know that they're seeking someone to trust. It was hard for me to trust people growing up because I didn't grow up in the best neighborhoods. I was running around with people that did not have my best interests, And so I like to share my vulnerabilities with those young people. It shows that I am not ashamed, I'm not embarrassed to share things that I was once embarrassed of, that I was once ashamed of. And for instance, I remember my dad he spent a lot of time in prison during my childhood. And I remember one Christmas when I was 10, I spent it in prison with my dad, and he was actually in Chino Hills at that time. And, when I went back to school, kids talked about, oh, what'd you do for Christmas? And I felt very ashamed to say, like, I just, opened presents. I didn't want to share that I was, visiting my dad in jail, because it'd be like, oh, what'd your dad do? Or, they'll make fun of me. And it took me a long time to make peace with that. And I share that with those students. I said, you know what, my dad went through this. And a couple of other personal stories, but I choose the stories carefully. And that is how I establish trust. I think it's important for one to be vulnerable with the population that doesn't, they don't have people there for them. So that's one way that I do it. And also just sharing my story. What I've shared here with everyone is just the very tip of the iceberg. I've got some embarrassing stories. I got all kinds of things. That's right. And I think it's important to share those stories. It's who you are. If it wasn't for everything that I've gone through in life, then I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be who I am. Thank you. And that's one of the ways that I like to establish trust with people, is to be vulnerable and to be, true to yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. I would say, we talk about this from time to time, that that's right, respect, that people don't care about what you know until they know that you care about them. And I appreciate you talking about being authentic and genuine and kind of sharing your story, because I think that makes a real big difference in the lives of young people. Now, Damon, that we have you on camera. Hopefully your microphone is working. Can you just tell us
Testing
a
1,
little
2,
bit more?
3.
There we go.
1, 2. What is this?
So yeah, look at that. The 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business. Anyway, so Damon, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Well, so first and foremost, I'm super, super grateful for the opportunity to come and speak. And it's difficult to go after the luminaries that we've heard. I mean, Richard, I lost track of how many jobs you've had. And I actually partner with NASA on a number of things. So I was sitting here going, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I understand. And for the folks on stage, my last job was in Microsoft. And everybody would say, oh, you just have to be a coder. You have to know software and all this. No, we had accountants. We had chefs. We had, we ran the full gambit of all those different job types. And so it is critically important that we share with young people today, and actually the grown and sexy who might be changing careers, to understand you don't have to, the company that you're looking for, the job you think you're going for may not be as one-dimensional as you think it is. And that's one of the things that we're very proud of. So right now I'm working with an organization named Community Labs. If you remember all the way back to the beginning, when they had the barcode up, that barcode led to a survey so we could find out more about you. And what we're doing is aggregating that information that allows us to get a better and a richer perspective on who the participants are within this program. Now, if you think about some of those questions, name, address, telephone number, your race or ethnicity, your gender, etc., those are very basic. But those are also points of data that represent you across a number of different data silos and data sets. And so now if we can start pulling in data from some of those different types of questions and points of information about each one of you, we at Community Labs have built a platform that allows us to get a better picture of you as an individual and then compare you to a population model of people who are similar to you. A 50-year-old African-American male who has a college degree, who might be looking for a job in project management or green jobs or the entertainment industry. Well, that's great. What type of certifications do you have as we start to dig deeper? And then what type of certifications might you need to get that dream job that you're looking for? If you had a particular certification, could you increase your salary by a factor of 10 to 15%? We've been speaking to some of the local unions in the Los Angeles area. And I'm sorry, I'm from DC. I live in DC, but in the LA area to say, hey, look, the folks on your team are doing great things, and they've got these jobs. But how can we help them to move forward in their careers by showcasing pathways that they may not have thought of? But when we come back down to the kids in school, it's great to introduce them to these different types of careers. So if we take, I want to be a producer, great. What does that entail? Well, there may be certain certifications that they need to know, they need to pass. Well, if we can lay that out for them in a timeline, excuse me, a timeline to achieve that, the resources to go after it, now we've not only shown them the way, but we've empowered them to get there as well. And that's what's most important. Just telling a kid it's over there, or it's, you just read this book, or you do this. Sometimes we have to hold their hand and we have to walk them through it. So what we're doing with our platform is trying to aggregate that information to show them what is possible, what others have done. And yes, you make a six-figure salary by doing some of these jobs. Yeah, maybe that's a great job to go after. You haven't thought about it, and maybe it does fit who you are. So we're really excited about this type of program, but more so to be able to identify those programs that work well and match them to the participants to make sure they have the fullest opportunity to maximize on their employment opportunities.
I love that. And Damon, this is one of those things where, I've been asking everybody to talk a little bit about the training, the pathway, the results, etc. But I wanted to ask you, because I think that there are so many professional opportunities for young people who want to pursue certifications, degrees, education, etc. But as JP pointed out, for some people, they end up going down a path where they spend a lot of money on education that doesn't ultimately benefit them. And you talk more about how we make sure that folks who've spent the time to get the credentials can get gainfully employed.
Yeah, we all know that college student who went 4 years, got a big loan, and yet they don't have a tangible path forward. And so we want to make sure that we've got the paths are laid out for them. So I've done a lot of work in healthcare. A radiology technician can make $80,000 to $90,000 a year, but they may not know that. They may think it's doctor or nurse. They may not think of those technical jobs in between. Farmers can make over $100,000 a year, but young people are moving out of the agricultural industry because they see it as dirty and they don't want to do that. So, but we can show them how drones and Internet of Things sensors and mixed reality, other technologies can make farming sexy again. So it's by showing them the tangible nature of what is possible that allows the student or someone who's old to have better visualize what their future looks like. That's where we start to run afoul. When we think about high school programs and we say, okay, well, you can do it. And they go to their counselor and they say, I want to do this. And their counselor goes, really? Can you? If there are programs like this that can show them the art of the possible in their lives, that's an opportunity for that student to go, you know what? I think I can. Now, maybe I might not be a neurosurgeon, but maybe I can be that radiology technician. We had a situation at Microsoft several years ago where we need data scientists for artificial intelligence. Data scientists are the ones who do the math behind the scenes. We could not hire enough of them graduating out of universities, and those jobs paid starting about $150,000 to $180,000 a year. Now, you tell a student back in high school, that ain't bad if they like math. So what we have to do is we have to be more articulate. And I love that when we just take a look at the panel, we've got green jobs, we've got entertainment jobs, and we got someone who just wants to give them jobs. But we have to give them the pathways that allow them to do it. And one of the critical needs that we have is analyzing the data. What does the data say about the programs that are currently running? And I'm not just talking about this one, but municipal programs, foundational programs, economic development programs. What does that data say who does that data who do those programs benefit? And where could an increase of funding potentially turn those programs into something more successful? Do they benefit men over women, women over men, different races, different neighborhoods, different communities? And by tying that into university data, and we can start to see the matriculation rates into LA Valley or UC or UC or UCLA, that gives us an opportunity to see, they're following these paths and then they're turning that into something that's more valuable. So that's why we really like harnessing that data that's in those different areas and pockets and bringing them together to build that tapestry.
So I need to stop our conversation here because I want to make sure I introduce Charles. But Damon, I hope that we find another opportunity to talk more about what the data tells us. I think one of the reasons for this gathering and for the work that a lot of folks are doing in LAEDC is to talk about the state of LA County so that we have a better sense of where the opportunities lie and where we should be routing people in terms of gainful employment, meaningful careers, and other business opportunities going forward. What you heard from Richard and from Stella and from Michelle, Sterlina, and JP are all this kind of wide variety of job opportunities, many of which are much more accessible than people realize. But I think we have to be able to link, the opportunities to the stories about how we get people ready for them. So with that, I would just say to all the panelists, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your perspectives. Right now, I'm going to introduce Charles. Yes, that's right. Give it up for him. I'm going to introduce Charles Johnson, who's the program director over at the LAEDC, who focuses on jobs first. Right. So Charles, if you could come up, we'd love to hear from you.
Damon, while he's coming up, Damon, you mentioned the IoT devices.
Yes, sir.
Can anybody name the first city that the very first IoT device was deployed in?
I'll say
Kansas
LA.
City?
It was LA. LADWP.
Nice. Randy Levin. Okay. All right. So Charles, you have the stage.
Thank you. Boy, didn't realize how tall it was. Okay. Anyway, good evening. I'm Charles Johnson. Like they said, I'm the program director of California Jobs First for Los Angeles County. Thank you all for coming out. You're an amazing panel. Stella, you're a rock star. One of our rock stars in the sustainability. Grid Alternatives is her organization, doing very good things. Michelle, JP, and Sterlina, thank you all. Sterlina, I don't see where you are, but fantastic sharing your story like that. I think it should resonate with a lot of younger people, especially. We know college is not for everyone. I do have 2 kids. I'm pushing them towards college, of course, to be in debt like myself, but we know it's not for everyone. But so we want to have career paths for, the younger adults out there. I do want to mention really quickly at the start, there was a QR code that was on the screen. I think it was broken. There was some issues with it. It should be working now. Is that correct? Okay, great. The QR code is working now. So if you wouldn't mind, in the audience, virtual, please take advantage of filling that out. And I'll explain why in a second here. Unfortunately, I don't have this memorized, and some of you guys have heard me say this again before, but I'm going to say it again. So this is actually the third in a series of 5 in what they're calling the Geographic Racial Planning and Environmental Justice Forums. You've heard a little bit of talk about race up here. We heard a lot of talk about environmental justice, and there's a lot to unpack, and that's essentially what we hear. This wasn't an event planned by the state of California, but rather an event your constituents here in Los Angeles County felt was necessary to help every race and ethnicity in LA County have a voice about how racial issues regarding employment and the environment affect them and how it can potentially be resolved. California Jobs First, a little bit about that, about the program, was established to create livable wage jobs for people who, quite frankly, been overlooked for way too long. I'm a resident of LA for about 30 years now, and probably like most of you, I'm sure you're tired of seeing unhoused people under viaducts, living in makeshift tents, qualified older adults struggling to get respectable jobs, working professionals in their 30s depressed because they can't afford to buy a house after working their tails off, our veterans frustrated because they can't get entitlements for medical issues, arguably caused by serving this nation. College and high school students unclear about a career path after graduation. And we can't forget about our indigenous people still having to fight for necessities like water and electricity. It's just unacceptable. I'm African American, obviously. I don't want to just focus on my race's issues because it wouldn't be fair to the many other races out there that are in need. But I think you get my point, is that we can do better, especially for Los Angeles County. If we leverage workforce partnerships, workforce development, economic diversification, industrial planning, and innovation in the climate space, which we talked about quite a bit up here, we can identify and develop investment projects that build an inclusive, equitable economic future for LA County. This is going to require the stakeholders, probably a lot of the younger ones, but some of the middle-aged ones, to be upskilled and reskilled and growing sustainable industry sectors that are identified, especially for LA, like aerospace, bioscience, construction, transportation, and healthcare. But we also don't want to rule out entrepreneurship, because we need people to not be in that box, as was discussed, come up with fresh ideas in order to integrate into those sectors. This program, California Jobs First, is going to give us the opportunity to develop strategic projects in those sectors that resolve climate change issues in our region. And if we do it right, those strategic projects will become livable wage jobs in the climate space. But at the same time, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, and that's race. We have to develop an equitable process for all races in LA County to understand the opportunities and threats from the research about our region. We'll have that in a second. Validate that research or challenge it. But ultimately, we have to work towards developing strategic projects that work for everyone in LA County. The information you provide today in these surveys will be integrated into the final regional plan for Los Angeles County that highlights your suggestions to state officials and legislators who can initiate and invest in change for the better. That's what today's forum is all about. So, we've already had a little bit, but on the agenda we have summarized reports. It's coming up in a second. Summarized reports from work that the stakeholders from the California Jobs First program has already done. We heard from guest speakers. We may have time to have breakout sessions, but if not, there'll certainly be question and answer periods. And there's some really good food here too. So I'm gonna turn this over to, where's that handsome young man? Armand Kuyan, he's our research analyst for the California Jobs First program. Come on up here and wow these people.
Thank you, Charles. That was very nice. Hello, everybody, and happy to be presenting this presentation on. Okay, I guess I'll lean forward. This is a presentation on the research and data that we've collected over the planning phase of our program. So this is stuff that we've done over about the last maybe year and a half. And there's primarily three sources of data that I'll be referring to here. One is the regional report, which has a lot of empirical data pulling from like the Census, American Community Survey, representing our whole county. Do I need to lean over? Okay. All right, thank you. I guess I moved my laptop, okay. And then we have our convening data. So we had a series of convenings that we gathered community data from. And then lastly is some survey data that we're also going to present. So without further ado, if we could go to the next slide, please. So yeah, here's the agenda for today. I'll begin by just going over what LA County is. So sometimes it's hard to actually visualize how large the county is, how many people live here, how many different governments and municipalities exist in LA County. So I'll just give a quick overview on that. The second thing is the regional plan part 1. So that has a lot of the empirical data. It kind of explains what our program is and the type of organizations we've engaged so far. The next thing you'll see is the convening data. So that's the series of convenings I mentioned earlier, a lot of community input. And then finally, the survey data, which we did some outreach in the community. So next slide, please. So firstly, can everybody see this? Yeah, okay. So firstly, what is LA County? A lot of times it's a bit confusing because we have LA City, we have LA County. So just to keep in mind, the data that we're presenting here in the region that we represent as the California Jobs First for LA County is the entire county. It's not just the city. LA County is neighbored by Ventura County to the west, Kern County to the north, San Bernardino to the east, and Orange County southeast. So it's a very large county. It's the most populous county in the entire country. We have had a slight population decline. We were up over 10 million a few years ago, but now we're down to 9.7 million. But we're still the most populous county. It spans about 4,000 square miles, so also one of the largest counties in the country. And just for reference, the 3 most populous cities in LA County are, of course, Los Angeles, Long Beach, where we are, and Santa Clarita. Sometimes it's Glendale, sometimes Santa Clarita. So since LA County is so large, the method that our program has decided to kind of break up the county so we address more specifically certain parts of it is we use the service planning areas. So service planning areas is something that comes from the Department of Public Health in LA County. It's how they distribute resources. It's just how they divide the county, but our program uses the same method. So typically there's 8 service planning areas, but for the purposes of our program, we divided SPA 6, which is South LA, into 2. Right along the 110 freeway, there's the east and the west to reflect demographic differences that our program thought were very important, specifically ethnic and racial differences between those 2 parts of South LA. So just for reference, that this includes Antelope Valley up north. SPA 2 is San Fernando Valley. SPA 3 is San Gabriel Valley. SPA 4 is Metropolitan LA, so that's downtown Los Angeles. SPA 5 is the west side, so Santa Monica, Culver City, that's included in SPA 5. SPA 8 is South Bay, that's Long Beach. SPA 6 is South LA, as we've already noted, and SPA 7 is East Los Angeles. So we go to the next slide, please. So this was kind of the biggest part of the research that we've done so far. We allocated money by contracting a couple research firms, Civil Economics and Beacon Economics, for this portion of our data collection and research and analysis. So this was for the regional plan part 1. I'm going to be giving a quick overview of what is in this plan, and there'll be a QR code. It's a lot of information. It's like 200 pages, so you can scan it yourself, but I'll give a very general overview. So next slide, please. So yeah, feel free to scan the QR code here if you want to access this. Another way to access it is you can go to our website, lasurf.org, on the About page, and you can find this research there. The regional plan part 1 has a few main segments. Particularly, it has a stakeholder mapping, which gives an idea of what type of organizations are a part of our collaborative. So for California Jobs First, we're the Los Angeles County Collaborative, and it's just a partnership of 700, 600 plus, I don't know if we're at 700 yet, but organizations, residents, all the way from LA Metro to, like the most grassroots CBO and San Fernando Valley. So it's a whole host of organizations. The regional summary looks at our county at the SPA level, so it breaks it up in the SPA level, the 9 different SPAs, and it takes into consideration with different variables from income to public health, so asthma rates, for example, number of grocery stores. It looks at it in each specific area and identifies gaps, which there are a lot of, I'm sorry, not just gaps, but inequalities between service planning areas, which are very significant. The labor market analysis speaks to labor market conditions. One of the main findings was just the LA County's labor force participation rate is quite low compared to other similar metropolitan areas. The industry cluster analysis goes by each service planning area and says which industry has a concentration or strength in that service planning area. And finally, we have a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, which I highly recommend if you just want a really general overview of your service planning area or the county at large. They have 9 of those, well, 10 if you include the county one, so 1 for each spawn for the county. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the findings from the regional plan. Next slide. Thank you. Some key indicators, you'll see right here, there's a table. Maybe the numbers are a bit too small for some folks to see, so I apologize for that. But we have some key indicators on the screen here. We have the LA County average, and then we have for each service planning area, of course, there's the 9 service planning areas. You'll see that LA County on average, 52% of the population is considered to be disinvested. This definition of disinvested, it comes from a state definition, but it kind of includes things you would typically think of, like from an environmental perspective, perhaps they have higher rates of air pollution and they have to deal with that. Household income, of course, is typically seen as a pretty solid indicator of disinvestment. So 52% of our county is considered to be disinvested. The poverty rate countywide is 16.6% with an unemployment rate of 5.8%. But if we compare that to some of our spas, we'll see that certain spas have unemployment rates that are lower, some that are higher, some have higher incomes, some have lower incomes. And then finally, we have a pollution burden. That's the column all the way to the right. The map right here shows which parts of LA County are considered disinvested by census tract. So you'll see a high concentration of Antelope Valley. 76% of the population in Antelope Valley is disinvested. San Fernando Valley has a lot of wealth, but it also has a large population of disinvestment. It actually has the largest population just in total of disinvested folks in the entire county. You'll see the Metro Spa has very strong industry, has educational resources, but also continues to have a lot of disinvestment, particularly if you think of like the Westlake area, Koreatown, and downtown Los Angeles. Spa 5 is seen as one of the best performing service planning areas with the 8% of the population is disinvested. They have a lot of industries and they continually are doing well, and it seems like the future is going to be doing well as well. Spa 6 South, so we broke that up. Unfortunately, Spa 6 South is the part of the county that has the most disinvestment. The Spa 6 Southeast, particularly, 99% of the population is living in a disinvested community, and the west part of the South LA has 91%. So I'm assuming we have a lot of representation from South Bay, so you may want to pay attention to that. South Bay has a lot of industry and 50% of the population disinvested, same as about the county. So if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So like I said, there's like 30 variables that they use to analyze the different service planning areas throughout the county. And it's too much to go through for this presentation, but they have an index. So what this index does is it takes different variables and puts them all into one thing, and it kind of gives them a score based off of a theme of the variables. So we'll see here we have the equity index and the sustainability index, and higher score is considered to be a good thing. So we'll see when it comes to the equity index, Spa 5 is performing very highly. We can focus on Spa 8 since we are in Long Beach right now. Maybe Spa 7, that's East LA, so we're also represented in this district, and Spa 6. You'll see that Spa 6 has a quite low score for equity. A lot of that is due to the fact that a large share of the residents live in disadvantaged communities. They have lower life expectancies, and on top of that, they even face other challenges, such as having higher percentages of low birth weight infants. And of course, the household income is quite low. We'll see right here with the sustainability index, this takes into consideration things like air quality, drinking water contaminants, available green space, and a battery electric vehicle population, and solar energy opportunities. And so once again, we can see that Spa 6 and Spa 4 are actually performing quite low. Spa 4, specifically, that's metropolitan LA, downtown LA area, they face a lot of challenges. They have a strong video production industry, like motion picture, but they face a lot of challenges in other ways. A lack of green space. You'll see Antelope Valley actually has the highest score. That's due to a lot of green space in Antelope Valley with better air quality than the rest of the county. We go to the next slide, please. So right here, we see job quality and access. Once again, with job quality and access, we see SPA 1. So though Antelope Valley has a strong sustainability score, unfortunately, across other metrics, they do score quite low, in the same range as SPA 6 that tends to score. If we look here at the job quality and access, this is taking into consideration jobless working age population, worker salaries, commute times, workforce development, and workforce development training providers. Specifically, that last point is very important, workforce development training providers. SPA 3 actually has the most in the entire county. If you think of the Claremont, Pomona, like those colleges over there, that's a lot of colleges in a very small space. But we do see that, unfortunately, SPA 6 is scoring quite low. SPA 8, actually, Long Beach is scoring high here. This could be due to a large number of workforce development providers and perhaps a higher worker salary and earning. Economic competitiveness is the one right here. This is taking into consideration establishments per capita, research institutions, exports and trade, recession recovery, educational attainment. So once again, we'll see that SPA 3 actually will score high here. I may be mistaken. I think that the Claremont colleges, they actually contribute to economic competitiveness, but that's due to the large number of research institutions that we have there. Another really important thing that we see in disinvested parts of the county is that they have a low number of business establishments per capita. They simply don't have businesses to provide jobs for people, and this is why the score is very low. And we'll get to that later with the industry cluster. Another thing that we see here is the exports and trade. SPA 5, that's the west side, once again is scoring really high because they have a lot of exports outside of their service planning area. So they're constantly bringing in wealth from other parts of the country, the county, the state, and so that contributes to their income. And then finally, if we go to the next slide, we'll see the resilience index by service planning area. This is taking into consideration infrastructure, so things like household internet access, age of properties, environmental risks, and social clubs per capita. Once more, we see SPA 5 is scoring quite high here. This is due to a high number of social clubs per capita, which are correlated with having networks for employment opportunities, for example. Environmental risks, those do affect some of our wealthier SPAs, actually. Like I know SPA 5 has an environmental risk. SPA 2, San Fernando Valley, has the largest wildfire risk in the entire county. And finally, the age of properties is also taken into consideration here. So this is it for the regional summary. If you want to look more into those variables, check out the report. So we're going to move on now. Next slide, please, to the, so this is all the variables if you're interested, but it's also on the report. Next slide, please. So labor market analysis, really quickly, LA has a lower labor force participation rate compared to other metropolitan areas that we can compare ourselves to. So that's like Atlanta, Dallas, Houston. We have a slightly higher rate than Phoenix, but that's mostly in part due to their large retirement community. This is seen as a big challenge and barrier, but it's also an opportunity. So among population with higher participation rates, so we're seeing right here with this table, this chart, there's two charts. I'm going to address the chart on the bottom first. That's referring to LA County labor force participation by age over the last 30 years. And it's broken into age brackets. So it shows for each age bracket, it starts 16 to 19 all the way to 70 plus. What was the labor force participation over the last 30 years? Main takeaway is that 30 years ago, we had a lot more 16, 19-year-olds working and participating in LA County's economy in 1990. Now it's almost half of what it was back then. But on the flip side, we'll see that when it comes to LA County residents that are above the age of 50, we have a lot more people still continuing to be a part of the workforce. It's not quite clear what the reason is. We do have an aging population as a whole, California and LA County, but it could also be due to the fact that people just have to work more now. People are also living longer. The table on the top is showing LA County labor force participation by educational attainment for residents 25 and older. The key takeaway from this table is just looking at the stark difference between folks who have less than a high school graduate as their highest level of educational attainment compared to each incremental level, which is a little bit higher. So less than high school graduate, labor force participation is 67%. High school graduate, including equivalency, GED, that's 75%. Some college or associate, that's 81. Bachelor's degree or higher is 88%. Now, participating in the labor force doesn't guarantee a job. However, it's better to at least participate in it than to not be looking for a career at all. And we see a lot of people that with less than a high school graduate are just not participating at all. So the question is, how can we reach those Angelinos? What are some challenges to participation that we found? We found that housing is a challenge. Affordable housing, there's a lack of it in LA County. Education, childcare, transportation, and finally, access to resources. So I'm just going to get into a little more detail if we go to the next slide. I have a few quotes here that I pulled out of the report. The main takeaway of the first quote is that there's nearly 72,000 people in LA County that are prime age. That's between the ages of 25 and 54, and they're not participating in the labor force or attending college. If we look closely at who this group is, it's 65% female and almost half are Latino. So this is a large group of female and Latino individuals in the county that are just not participating at all in the labor force. One thing on the aspect that they're female, one thing that the data found is that if you compare the labor force participation rate for a single male or a single female with no kids, it's almost identical. But if you have just one kid as a male versus one kid as a female, the female participation rate declines dramatically. But the male participation rate, it doesn't change much. This could be an indication that childcare is a barrier to participation in LA County's economy. The second quote is referring to folks who have disabilities in the county. We see that participation is significantly lower among those prime age people who have a disability, but people with disabilities have experienced a 14% increase in participation since the pandemic. Finally, the last quote is referring to racial differences that we see in LA County. So if you compare a Black individual, an Asian individual, Latino, and white individual with a bachelor's degree, they all roughly participate in the labor force at 90%. However, if you look at those same racial groups at a lower educational attainment, such as not having a high school degree, which is the data point here, we see that it goes to 74% for the Latino group to 48% for Black individuals in the county. That means Black individuals in the county who don't have a high school graduate, who are not high school graduates, have a much lower participation rate than other racial groups that are also not high school graduates. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So the next part of the analysis was an industry cluster analysis. This was primarily looking at what are the most regionally concentrated industries in LA County, because you want to leverage those industries for economic growth, since we already have a concentration. So we identified 7 as a part of this program. Something that's very useful that I suggest everyone check out is we have it by service planning area, so you can check it out for your neighborhood. What is the industries that are doing well in your neighborhood? But the 7 we identified for our program is transportation and logistics, aerospace, video production and distribution, clean renewable energy, construction, bioscience, and healthcare. So I'm going to just speak very briefly about the first 3. Video production and distribution, by the way, that's like motion picture industries. So, LA, Hollywood, it's our one of our oldest industries, and it's the most regionally concentrated in the entire country. There's many positions in this motion picture industry that don't require a bachelor's degree. The challenge typically is the networks that it requires to break into the industry. And currently, though it is still one of our strongest industries, it's facing significant challenges after the strikes of last year. Transportation and logistics continues to be a strong industry throughout many LA County spas. We actually see that even in some of the lower performing spas, such as Spa 6 East, that's east of the 110 in South LA, transportation logistics is growing. If you think of the type of careers that you can have in transportation and logistics, many of these also do not require a high school. Sorry, I keep saying high school. They don't require a bachelor's degree. So these are things like flight attendants, truck drivers, freight agents, clerks, sales representatives. These don't require bachelor's degrees and they pay well. And when I say pay well, the average wage that we see in these industries, in these occupations, is $70,000 and more. Something to pay attention to is both of our ports. We have two of the largest ports. I believe we have the two largest ports in North America. That's the LA port and Long Beach port. They're both transitioning to carbon neutrality, so a lot of opportunities for sustainability there. And also that provides opportunities for folks who want to learn new skills that come with the transition to carbon neutrality. Aerospace is a legacy Los Angeles industry. It has declined over the last 10 years, but over the 5 years, in some parts it's increased, and in some parts of the county it's also just increased in the last 10 years. My whole point with that was that it may not be as strong as it once was, but it's still a very strong industry in LA County that pays good wages in occupations that don't require a bachelor's degree. So for example, guided missile and space vehicle manufacturing, that's more specifically what we're thinking of, aircraft manufacturing, and actually South Bay, where we are right now, has a very strong aerospace industry. We go to the next slide. Here are the other 4 industries. So we have clean and renewable energy. This is an extremely important industry for LA County moving forward. It's not currently regionally concentrated in LA County, but since the state and the county and many of our cities are trying to transition to carbon neutrality, it's going to be increasingly important. There's many occupations that pay well above $80,000 per year on average, and these are things like electricians, clerks, installers, and telecommunications employees, and they don't require a 4-year degree. Healthcare is still seen as a strong industry in LA County. It's actually our largest industry. It's not our most regionally concentrated, but it's our largest, so it has the most total number of people employed are in healthcare in LA County. It pays a good wage, and it's increasingly important as our population ages. When we're seeing increases in home and outpatient care and mental health services. Finally, we have construction and biosciences. Construction is also a very important industry. Some of the standards of green building and green construction will be very useful to learn for many people. Construction is typically seen as a field that has many careers and opportunities for folks who don't have bachelor's degrees, and that's for good reason, because there are many careers in there, such as carpenters, plumbers, fitters, clerks, and drywall, AC installers. These are things to take into consideration. And finally, biosciences. This is an industry that one of its challenges is actually an image problem. People hear bioscience and they think of like very sophisticated science like PhDs, Einstein, whatever, but it actually doesn't like require all of that. There's a lot of careers in bioscience that just require a high school degree and maybe some training. Can we go back? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So yeah, if we think of what these industries are, it's just manufacturing. It could be manufacturing equipment for pharmaceutical, surgical, medicinal, medical, et cetera, even botanical. And this type of careers are technicians, operators, and testers. We go to the next slide. So here's a general SWOT. I'm going to skip over it, but it's just that I've kind of been going over it. It's just like, how's LA County doing? But yeah, check it out. We go to the next slide, please. Oh, the threat. I haven't memorized it. Let's see. Okay, so the threats. We have climate change related threats. Okay, so including wildfire risk and the adverse effects of urban heat islands. So these are parts of the county that are hotter due to the built landscape. They're hotter than similar areas that don't have the same landscape. Essentially, this is due to a lack of green space, lack of shade, the asphalt. It could be like 7 degrees hotter. And we also found that Latino individuals tend to live in these urban heat islands more than other racial groups in the county. The second threat is the high degree of spatial inequality. That was just, we're seeing the inequality between the service planning areas. West Side is doing great. South LA, not so much. Long Beach is doing good in some parts, other parts not so much. San Fernando Valley has a lot of inequality, et cetera. And then finally, this is kind of getting to the point with the labor force participation. So while the average level of education among LA County residents is increased, the number of jobs requiring higher levels of education and training are increasing at faster rates than the rate that our education is increasing. So that's another threat, but it could be opportunity. So yeah, we go to the next slide. All right, convening data. So we had a series of convenings 50 plus convenings held by our Affinity Hub leads. These were organizations that convened in their thematic areas. There's 12 thematic areas, including youth, families, homeless, veterans, and seniors, labor and workers, immigrants, institutional governments, academia, economic development, employers and businesses, and civic engagement and place-based coalitions. So here are some findings from their convenings where they engage community members. If we go to the next slide, we'll see that some of the key challenges were some economic and social barriers for individuals in the community in LA County. So some of these barriers include the need for capital and technical assistance for disadvantaged businesses, a lack of hyper-local training. That's something that we found is a lot of people still, they like to stay within their localized community. They get the outreach in person, not digitally, and there's a lack of training programs to appeal to folks at that really local level. The housing crisis, of course, these are kind of more general problems that we see in LA County. Transportation, driving an hour and a half to work. I mean, it's good to have a job, but damn, that's difficult. Is it sustainable? Not really. Digital divide. We found that there's also some workforce and community issues with the lack of job training and education for older adults, non-English speakers, and marginalized communities. And the high school dropout rates continue to be a struggle in LA County. If we go to the next slide, though, we can see some opportunities. So the opportunities revolve around economic development and innovation. These are some things that have worked in the past and could continue to work. So having these accelerator incubator programs for people, maybe combining that with the hyper-local approach to support supply chains, investment in green infrastructure, construction, clean and renewable energy, leveraging AI, robotics, instead of maybe seeing it as a threat, seeing how you could actually use it to your benefit. And then also we see that apprenticeships are commonly cited as a really successful and useful way to get people employed. Community and infrastructure enhancement also, this is a pretty general thing, but just as LA County enhances its infrastructure, we're seeing investments, for example, in metro, different things across the county, major events like the 2028 Olympics. How can we use that infrastructure enhancement to the benefit of our disinvested communities in the county? Finally, I'm going to speak on survey data. So if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to go over the survey data. Next slide, please. So overview of the surveys. We, as a part of our program, we had 90 organizations that conducted outreach to the communities throughout the service planning areas. There's a designated number for each service planning area. They're still representing those thematic areas I previously mentioned, minus government and institutional, government and academia. We collected 2,660 unique surveys over this about 2-month period. 36% were contacted through email, but 48% were still contacted in person. And participants were offered gift cards for completing these surveys and attending the accompanying meeting. So if we go to the next slide, where do respondents live? We see it's pretty even representation across the different service planning areas. Each one of them pretty much, SPA 7 East was almost there at 200, but they all pretty much got 200 people representing where they live in the county. If we see the breakdown of how survey respondents describe themselves in their gender, 59% said female, 39% said male, and 1% said transgender. If we go to the next slide, we'll see how old are you. A majority of respondents were over the age of 35, over half of them, but we also had 126 people that were under 18, kids under 18, and 18 to 24, we had 383 as well. And then, so do you identify as any of the following? These are kind of focus groups for this program: veterans, parents, low-wage earners / underemployed adults, justice-involved people, business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, homeless, and immigrants. And we do see representation across the board for those different groups. And then finally, the next slide shows the survey ethnic and racial data. Of course, over half of the county is Hispanic or Latino. We were actually under that mark for these surveys. Only about a little over a third of the surveys were Hispanic or Latino. We got significant representation from the Black or African American population in LA County at 950 surveys. The Asian population, which represents 15% of our county total. We didn't get so much representation at about 279 folks in the Asian group. That also includes Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander. To round out the rest of the survey, we had 312 individuals who identify as white, and then some other racial categories as well. We go to the next slide, please. And then the last sort of demographic piece. This is all to give you context about the types of folks that we interviewed for these surveys. Once we get into the content of the survey, so educational attainment, we see 24% have a high school diploma or equivalency, 19% some college, and 8% have an associate's degree. So more than half of the people that were interviewed for this don't have a bachelor's degree, and actually 16% of them have less than a high school. 40% have less than a high school or just a high school. And then here we see the current employment situation. These kind of break down to retired, self-employed, stable, unemployed, and do you want a new job? So we have quite a few people here who are seeking a new job. We have, let's see, 376. So yeah, we have we have like about 900 people who are seeking a new job if we include the retired individuals seeking supplemental income. So finally, we can get into the content on the next slide. Barriers and obstacles. So what do you perceive as the primary barriers to your personal economic advancement? Of course, the number one thing that is a barrier in LA County that we keep saying is affordable housing. But if we think more about along the lines of what this project can help with, things like education, for example, childcare, credit and financial access, access to resources, technology, access to social networks. These are all cited commonly in the community with these disinvested folks as barriers to their personal economic advancement. What major obstacles do you believe prevent you and your family members from accessing high quality jobs in LA County? So we previously mentioned education. And to kind of continue with this theme, there's an issue in LA County, which is getting people connected to resources and getting people properly educated about resources, even before they get educated about careers and how to perform the job, how to function in that career. So we see there's a lack of knowledge about high growth industries, a lack of knowledge about quality job opportunities, ways to learn, flexible work schedule, and assistance for childcare. These all come up very frequently in at least 30% of the survey responses. If we go to the next slide. So barriers and obstacles continuing with what I was saying in the last slide. 72% of respondents said they are not connected to local resources that they can use to connect with jobs, training, or revenue opportunities. That is a large number of respondents from these surveys. To continue with that, 86% said they're not a member of a union. 20% said they feel they're at risk of losing their job in the next year. So if you think about 20% are worried that they might lose their job. A lot of respondents are not connected to resources. It could potentially be many folks who are going to be losing the job without opportunity to get reemployed, retrained, which should be one of the things that we should be looking at in LA County. For entrepreneurs, also lack of funding and high costs, and then access to educational resources are cited as challenges. If we go to the next slide, and the last thing I want to cover is opportunities. So do you believe that your community will benefit from state investments for a clean energy future? On the bright side, we see here that 61% of respondents said, yes, our community will benefit. And the second question is, what do you believe are the best ways you and your community might be able to participate in the transition? And the most commonly cited answer is installing residential solar. That's followed up by adding green spaces, trees, and shade, and access training or jobs in the clean energy sector, which is growing in LA County. And then so the last slide, kind of a more qualitative look at these opportunities. 40% of respondents said they are not familiar at all. Once again, getting back to that knowledge gap between community and the opportunities. 74% of respondents said they are interested in learning more about steps communities can take. So we have 40% that are not familiar, but we have a lot of people who are interested in learning more. And so finally, educational opportunities, training, internships, and apprenticeships are commonly noted as effective workforce development strategies. And we can't forget the importance of in-person communication, job centers, and mentorships. And that's my presentation. So thank you, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much. So this concludes our first half. So what we're going to do now is if we go straight through this door, we actually have some dinner waiting for you guys. So just to let you know, we have some carne asada flatbread for you. Not only do we have carne asada flatbread, we have a masa en queso cake, which is gluten-free, and we also have black bean empanadas for you guys. So please go right this way. You get taken care of. Thank you guys so much.
Let's have another. Thank you.
But I will say this. Because you know, one of the things I know, my apprentices, they, you know, I'm a grandparent. Guys. That's what you gotta do. You gotta put it on, you gotta catch it. I love it. I love it.
Que ya se acabó casi todo. Dijo que era la
Sorry, I'll get that out of your way. More black bread or no? Very kind. That's all I told you. He'll put it everything. He'll put it every single thing we're talking about.
That's one aspect, but even just a technical job, other stuff.
Coming live? Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Okay, here we go. Folks, we're gonna seat it. Michelle, this is for you. This is gonna be the most fun, interactive part of this whole thing. I don't want anybody to leave because this is gonna get fun. We want to figure out how we can get more interaction, but more importantly, we want to find out what's real. It's real talk. Okay? So real talk means that it's going to get really, really real. And that's what I want. So everybody that's eating a little bit, please don't leave. We need everybody's attention, full attention. Come on now. We just got a few more things to say, but we need to be able to get everybody in here because I know we got the itis going. I know I'm full. How many people like the meal? We need to know that as far as feedback. Raise your hand if you like the meal. Okay. Okay. Okay, if we can get everybody seated, because we want to get everybody in and out of this session. So if we can get everybody to kind of move a little closer to the stage, don't sit so far back because we need everybody to get into this thing. We need energy, so please move forward if you can. At least get the first 2 rows filled up. So folks in the 3rd and 4th rows, please, can we get you guys to move forward a little bit? Come on, guys. First rows, yeah, there you go. Get as close as you can. Get on the stage.
Well, we gotta be on camera. It's gotta be on camera. Okay, fine. I like it.
I really want to thank everybody that came out tonight because this is a Friday evening event. It really, really means a lot to me to be able to have you guys in this room because we need energy. We're recording this and we want to make a story out of this. There you go. Hey, well, everybody's a storyteller. They just don't know how to tell it. But we're going to put together a really, really good recap of this thing. We have 2 more events to do, Tuesday and Wednesday. And I want to get as many sound bites, as many people who have real concerns, issues, hope, anything that they can give us. We need to get that on our recording. So I'm going to ask everybody that's still with me to tell us why you came today. I don't want to call people out, so if somebody feels comfortable, I'm going to ask you to stand up. Don't just sit down and tell us why you came. But not right now. We don't have the cameras rolling. We got to get the cameras rolling. But is there anybody here who's a filmmaker or storyteller that really knows what they want to tell? Okay. Okay. What story do you want to tell the most? I'll ask that question before we get the cameras going. Growing up where? Okay. So, hey, camera crew, we're going to try and see if we can get the people as they tell us what they really feel. And how they feel right now is the only thing I care about. So, Michelle, can we get you to, we're trying to get a little bit closer. We want everybody to get a little closer together. Everybody's got deodorant on, right? Huh? Oh, just, hey, you know, if they come for it. Is there anybody that's still out there? Yeah, so is there anybody that has any questions, suggestions, or comments before the cameras start rolling? I'd like to really get something that doesn't have you recorded. So is anybody got any questions, suggestions, or comments right now? Okay, everybody's gonna go quiet on me, okay. So let me tell you a little bit about why I decided to do this. This was an opportunity for me to get these guys. Some of them are one's 17, one's 18, and the other one's 20. We have a whole group of folks who want to be in the entertainment industry. They want to be storytellers, but I'm going to start them off as producers, not as production assistants, as people who are really going to learn by doing, learning mistakes. And we've made a lot of them trying to put this event together. So what I'm really interested in is trying to make sure that we all get on camera to show ourselves working together and learning each other's personalities, each other's traits. But I want them to really know a little bit more about you guys. Each time we do this, I want them to interact with you guys. So we've been doing some interviews back there. I don't know if anybody has been back there, but we're trying to get interviews, sound bites from you. So before you leave, if you want something to be said heart to heart, we want to be able to get you on camera and get your sound bites with good audio. So that's one of the things I wanted to say. The second thing is that we're going to talk about something that's really very important in today's social political climate. We have a big election coming up this November, and we're going to be talking about this thing called race. It's not a thing that, you know, I have ever really had a conversation with people in an open forum like this before. But that's what the organizers, they want me to mention, that this is a geographical and racial forum. And I believe that there's more things that keep us together than apart. But I definitely want to make sure that everybody gets their piece to talk about that word race. So I'm going to ask camera guys, our cameras. I got mine, but so we're getting ready to start. So we want to be able to get as many faces and sounds as we can. So I want to be able to make sure I give everybody a chance to talk, because I don't want to call people out. So starting with Michelle over here. Michelle, tell us a little bit more about yourself. And when I say the word race, what do you say? Race. What does it mean? I mean, just off the top of your head, what does race mean?
Oh, and a mic. All right. When you say race, I just think, you know, difference, just, it's sad because I don't even think of in terms of race anymore. And that might just be me. I just look at people like people, you know what I mean? This person does this person does that, this person knows this person knows that. But I will say this, and I do want to get this on camera. Am I looking right here? Is this me? Right on. Black and brown people, do not allow anybody to tell you you don't need a college degree. Do not do that. All the work experience you can get, unfortunately, right now, we going through it. We going through pivoting, changing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you don't need a degree because nobody really knows what degree is needed for where. But dig, when they go back and they figure it all out, people of color, again, will be the ones left out if they don't have a degree. So please, You don't listen to anything I say. Listen to that. Do not bypass a degree thinking you can do it without it. Because right now, what, you're 17, 18, 19, 20. But what about when you get 30, 35, 40? You don't have a degree. And now you're old without a degree, right? So don't do yourself like that. Don't get old and not have a degree. Do it young. There it is. And now that's why I think about race.
Okay. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Okay. I want to get really real. So, Sterlina, you've been very vocal about your story. When I say race, what does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me when you say race? This is one that I have to think about. Like the first thing that comes to my mind, or just what my general
First
thoughts
thing, yeah, off the top, off the dome.
Okay. Is my experience, of course. I try to draw from my experiences of race. I grew up in a very racially diverse neighborhood in Koreatown. A lot of people would ask me, "You're in Koreatown, so you live with a lot of Koreans," but that's not true. It is actually very densely populated with Latinos. And then further south, there's a more Black and African American demographic, but I grew up with every race. To me, I always thought that there wasn't much separating me between someone of a different skin color, because in the neighborhood where I grew up in, we all kind of shared similar experiences. So I'm Latina, my friends were Black, I had Asian friends, I had very few white friends, not a lot of white people in Koreatown, but I always tried to learn something from every single racial culture. I remember trying to learn how to speak Korean because I grew up in a Korean environment. I remember just trying my best to understand the perspective of everyone from all races. So when you say race, the first thing that comes to my mind is understanding. How can I understand what this person has gone through, especially as it relates to their experience with race? So always try to understand. Yeah, that's my experience.
Okay, I'm not going to call on anybody else. I'm going to get the mic back to Jay, and then we're going to start thinking about how to fill out these forms. Now, the link was broke at one point, but I think it works now. So is there anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, these surveys? Okay, can you try it again? I think we had some problems. I think we got it fixed. Can you try it right now? Yes, please. Okay. Let us know, yeah, because we need the feedback. If it's broke, we need to know. It's still broke? Okay. So we got to make that happen. We got to make that.
Can we?
Okay. So if at all possible, if the link is broken for you and you have not been able to fill it out, please, before you leave, we need you to fill it out on paper. Name and just fill it out on paper. This is exactly why this event is happening, is to get your feedback and to know who you are. So again, if the link is broken for you, you didn't get a chance to submit, use that paper. Is there a mic?
Yes. Earlier, a few of my group mates, we had issues filling out the survey. We couldn't click submit, and it doesn't really load or anything, but it took a few times, and it finally submitted the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for keep trying. I appreciate it. Okay, so I think Jay's going to come back on, and I'm going to see if we can have Jay lead us through this survey, because this is what I want to be able to find as the real thing that you guys can do to help us understand who you are, what your unmet needs are. Anything you can share that will help us get more data, live data about who you are. I'm hoping that's what we're able to do, and again, have some realness about it. So, Jay, if you can.
Kevin, stay there because I'm not quite clear on what you want to do next. Can you please just describe that to the group?
Yeah. So, what I want everybody to do, who has not filled out the survey completely?
Show of hands, please.
Right. So 1, 2. Just 2? Okay. So if it's possible for you guys to go back and get one of the paper forms so that we can fill that out and have that completed before we leave. So Jay, what I wanted to do is to have a session with Sergio, one of our staff, and 2 young ladies who are kind of dualists. They mean they have a perspective on race that I'd like to know a little bit more about. Afro-Latinas. And Sergio is a young man who I think will help to connect with what I think people will be not only surprised about, but again, how people can live in different rooms in different worlds. And how people have probably been very immersed in a mesh of cultures. So I want to see how much, commonality we have as opposed to how race maybe sounds to people as something that's more of a segment, more of a division, and see if we can actually synthesize again, what is race to us? So without further ado, Jay, I'm going to have these 2 ladies come up and have them talk about what it means to be an Afro-Latina. And I'll have them introduce themselves. Round of applause. Thanks.
I'm a rebel, so I don't need a microphone.
Oh, no, you do. So Jay, she's going to introduce herself, but I'd love to have you listen and be able to break down anything that could help us contextualize what can we do leaving this room about how we can share our experiences. And again, hopefully we'll have a better perspective on what race could be other than what we knew how to, explain before we got here. So without further ado, I want to introduce Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start by saying the opportunity of a lifetime lasts the lifetime of the opportunity. That's what my abuelita would tell me. Our family was born and raised in Spanish Harlem. My parents are from the island of Puerto Rico, but we are a rainbow of people. We are the African slave, we are the Taino Indian, and we're the white Spaniard. We're the mixture. When I walk into a room and I'm not used to standing in front of a podium, I present as a Black woman. People don't know that I'm Puerto Rican until I open my mouth and I tell them that. For me, it's a superpower because of the fact I love my Black people. I'm a Black woman that was taken from the gate of Quito, drafted off in Dutch Curacao, and from Dutch Curacao from St. Thomas, and from St. Thomas to Puerto Rico. And race is a thing that is very nerve-wracking. It makes you ponder. Do you have a movable mic so that I can have a mic that's moving? I can turn this one off. And so the power of talking about race and ethnicity, I had to learn it working via hospice. So my journey began 40 years ago working in health equity. When African Americans, Latinos, Pacific Islanders, Tongan, Samoan, Armenian, Chinese, Cambodians will come into the community, they weren't given the best health care, and there was no one there to advocate for them. There was no one to be able to find out if there was an AT&T translator. If an African American woman walks into a hospital and she's having a sickle cell issue, there was no one to be able to articulate the level of pain that she was at. There was no one there to advocate. If a grandmother was being discharged from a hospital because she had a PTINR, that means that her blood glucose level wasn't balanced. They were going to discharge her out of the hospital without addressing her needs. So that means they would send her home, right? And if she fell, she could bleed internally. And so there needed to be someone to speak to the cardiologist or the doctor or whoever it was to say, we need to revoke this discharge because this patient hasn't had the correct care. The capacity of being able to be Black and Latin, I was able to move into a world in the community, in the African American community, and say to my colleagues, you don't address a woman that's 60 years old by calling her by her first name. It's Miss Jane. You don't say to a Hispanic woman, you look to see who the matriarch and the patriarch, the abuelita or the abuelo, right? Or the tia or the titi, so that you can address them correctly. Because we're very afraid of culture, we're very afraid of equity, we're very afraid of talking about race, and it's a pink elephant in the room and you're going to have to address it. Because if it's your mother or father that's in that bed, you don't care what color the person is. You want their pain level to be addressed. Is that not correct? So the reason why we're so afraid of race and culture is because there's a lot of pain wrapped around that. Ain't that the truth? There's a whole lot of pain. And so when you look at the Southern culture, there's a whole lot of things that went down in the South that we're dealing with today in 2024. And so when we talk about race and culture, what is race? Physical attributes. If he wouldn't have announced me as a Afro-Latina, would you know if I was Afro-Latina?
Yes.
Well, you cheated, so you know. I have another Afro-Latino behind me. But my father is chocolate. My mother looks like she's white. And so when we move through Creole culture, African culture, Hispanic culture, Southern culture, or when our children are raised in the North, we never talk about race or ethnicity. Because it makes people very, very nervous. But when I had to work in hospice, right, and I had to address all Mormon community, Greek Coptic Orthodox community, Jewish community, at that point, when you are dying, you don't care who's giving you a cup of water. So you learn really quick, right, to be able to address the audience. And so what we have to do is we have to create a safe space like my Native American brothers and sisters and have a listening session to be able to understand and engage how we do that. And so what I learned is you come into the room with great respect for the matriarch or the patriarch that's in that room, period. But you learn that, and when you hear someone say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, that's culture. And so our generation hasn't learned that. I'm 60. Do I look like I'm 60? No. I'm 60 years old. So I went through that movement of the hip hop movement, getting to Cal State, getting an education, moving through that process, and being able to be a triple minority, Black, Latina, and a woman. So do I get all 3 scholarships or do I get 1? 1. And so we have to find those people in the room that are able to be allies in cultures that we are not necessarily understanding. And the greatest thing about this generation is that this generation can move in real time, Jay Tucker. This generation is the most powerful generation on the face of the planet. Don't underestimate your power. And I don't care where you come from. Born and raised in the hood, 123rd in Amsterdam, projects. You guys don't have projects in California, you have condos. You haven't been out to the Lafitte projects in New Orleans when I would go out there and visit with my sorority sisters, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We just had Vice President Kamala come and speak at our boule. Very proud about that. And uplifting the power of Black women, but also to be able to stand and tell my Latina sisters, hey, relax. We need to understand what being melanated, blessed, and smart is all about. And we come in all flavors and in all colors, all backgrounds and all educations. And one thing that I learned that my grandmother said to me in the projects in Harlem was, just because you got an education don't mean you better than anybody else. Because some of the most educated people aren't the sharpest knives in the drawer. But I'm not saying go get your education. I'm saying it's difficult to get your education. My daughter is from a different generation. And sometimes she has to check me and say, Mom, that's not the proper way, even when I'm talking about transgender, non-binary, binary, fluid. I had to learn all those things. And how do you mix culture, right? And race and ethnicity with race and religion? Woo, clutch your pearls, because that ain't easy to talk about either. And so you have to be open. You have to create a safe space, Jay, for people to be able to communicate those things that they might find very uncomfortable. And so we have our Anglo allies, our white allies, our Native American allies, our Armenian allies, our Tongan and Samoan allies, our Cambodian allies, our Chinese allies, our African American allies, or as we say, the Chicanos back in the 70s, or black or African American or black power, all those conversations that we are uncomfortable. When I told my colleagues when I would work working for the hospitals, I would say to them, if Elmo, Big Bird, and Cookie Monster on Sesame Street can have a conversation about race, why can't we? If Big Bird can address race and culture, why can't we? It's because we haven't created a safe space. And so sometimes we have to ask those questions that are very, very uncomfortable. And I don't allow my colleagues and CFOs and CIOs in hospitals to become uncomfortable. I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable. And I have to say, during the pandemic, there's a black epidemiologist by the name of Keizim Corbett. She was the one that brought the COVID vaccination up front and center. And so no one knew who she was. And so I had to say to my epidemiologist, well, I don't understand why there's so much vaccine COVID resistance. Well, do you know about the Tuskegee experiment? Do you know about Henrietta Lacks? Do you know what happened to the Native Americans? And did you know what happened to the women in Puerto Rico that were getting sterilized without their knowledge, and women on the Sioux reservations getting sterilized? And so you need to understand culture. You need to understand race. You need to understand pain. You got to be able to deal with that. I can even walk into a prison, and I'm cool there, and I'm cool on 123rd, and I'm cool at 5th and Town, and I'm cool in the middle of the Sets, Crips, Bloods, Pyrus, and Brims, because we had to move in that world. And so this is a generation that's very different. And they're not going to do the BS. You're going to have to come with keep it 100. Is that what y'all say, keep it 100? And so that's what keeping 100 is. And so my daughter and their generations have to hit me to let me know that's inappropriate, Mom. That's a bias, Mom. And so there is a conscious bias, what we see, race, what we can see physically or features of somebody. And then there's the unconscious bias that when I call for a job interview on the phone, Jay, they hear this voice, and then I walk into the office and they see this face and I don't get the job. Or I walk into a CFO's office and say, I think that this person is dealing with stress or anxiety, because the biggest thing that we have to do within this generation, I'm going to bring my colleague up next, and my daughter, she wants to speak, is you have to be an advocate for people. And you know what? When you're an advocate, you put a moving target on your back, because rebels don't get grades. Rebels pay bills. And it's a social conscience bill. So when you say you're doing health equity, you say you down with the cause, you better be ready to take some punches. And I'm 60, and I can tell you I've been fired from many jobs. I just had a battle with a corporation that I was dealing with, that I had to talk to them about. When you tell me to come in and do health equity, you tell me to address conscious bias, you tell me to address unconscious bias, let's start with the CFOs, CIOs, and the COOs in this office. Let's start with senior leadership. Because the young people got it. It's our generation that doesn't. So when I say to you that I walk in humility and I walk in 3 minorities, I'm very proud of that. My grandmother was taken, my great-great-grandmother was taken from the gate of Quito to Curacao, from Curacao to St. Thomas, and from St. Thomas to Puerto Rico. So I have the better of all 3 worlds. I'm black, Latin, and I'm a woman, Jay. And it's a good thing. And so I say to the next generation and the generations to come behind me, they know better than I do, because I'm still learning about binary, non-binary, trans, fluid. I got to learn all those things. You ain't got to like it, but you need to learn it and you need to respect it. And that's why we have such many divisions, and polity is what we call in our churches. So what I've learned to do is become a crossing guard. I'm a thanatologist. It's a study of death, dying, and loss. So my background is in theology, and thanatology is the study of death, dying, and loss. Because we have a lot of young people that are not attaining and not achieving is because they're dealing with mental illness, anxiety, depression, stress. This is the most stressed out generation that you could even think about because they have a lot of pressure. And that's why we have young people committing suicide, just checking out of here because it ain't all guns and roses and it ain't all sweet all the time. So with that, be open, talk. You elders, you need to talk to these young people. You Latino elders, you need to talk. We need to talk about color, shade, hair, texture. We need to do it all because we are up against it as Americans. And so if we don't address the issues, history is failed to repeat again over and over and over. And so the only thing that we can do is engage it. And so I hope I shared some pearls of wisdom. I hope I can assist and facilitate. If you need somebody to teach you about health equity, how to fight the system, move through the system, get what you need for the people that are ill. Jay and I were talking about that. Jay, we were talking about that, Kevin and I, in regards to health equity. I just lost my mom 2 months ago. But because of the fact I worked in hospice, I knew how to navigate and move through to make sure that she got the best care that she needed. But never be afraid when somebody hands you a mic and says, race and ethnicity, explain it to me. What does that mean? Race has to do with physical attributes, color, texture. Ethnicity, cultura, Southern culture, Armenian culture, Dominican culture, Puerto Rican culture, Creole culture, Georgia culture, Alabama culture, Louisiana culture, Jalisco culture. Never be ashamed of that. So like I said, if Kermit the Frog, Cookie Monster, and Elmo can get it down pat, surely we can. All right, Jay Tucker, I'm going to pass the mic. I can't rap, but I'm going to pass the mic.
Thank you so much.
Hello. So my name's Amor. I'm her child. If you have the same face, so it's probably pretty obvious to know that. When I think about race, I have to address, like, the big thing is that I'm very, 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 very high yellow, as people would describe it as. And with that being said, that dark-skinned people are disrespected in front of me, and I'm put in front of them. And that's colorism, and I don't stand for that because I've been raised by dark skin my whole life. Because it was dark skin who helped with my hair, it was dark skin who taught me how to navigate, African features, to know what to do, how to prepare myself, how to embrace my African features, because there's a lot of colorism in Puerto Rico. My father is as black as my mother's pants, and I'm paler than her, as you can see. So when they see us in public, it's a constant, they'd ask her, well, is their father white? No, like, I'm just pale. And it would always be a separation of, oh, that can't be your mother. And to a point, I had to keep a picture of my father in my wallet to identify that I'm black. Like, I have ambiguously black features. But at the same time, I have to really step back because while I don't experience racism, I don't experience colorism. And I've watched people who are women, black men, who are much more talented, have much more everything more than me, and they're pushed to the back. Oh, you come here. And I'm like, no, like, you're not going to make me be against my own people. And as I divert into that, I'll load my shoes. Anyone Naruto fan at all? Any Naruto fans? All right, perfect. All right, so we can. Anime Expo. Being black and a nerd is dangerous. I have been jumped 4 times at E3, Dragon Con, and Anime Expo because I was cosplaying a character that was supposed to be white. But nobody in Naruto was white, they're all Japanese, so that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it's to a point where there have been arguments about why there's racism and escapism, if you guys haven't noticed that.
Say that again.
There's racism and escapism. The fantasy that we see, people are shocked when they hear that black and brown folks watch Game of Thrones. That we literally can name every single character from any show that we want to, and we're told that, oh, that's not for you. You're not allowed to like those type of things. You aren't allowed to stick to your genre. You're supposed to love hip hop, love this, love that. We can like that, and we can love other things as well. And being a Black femme, my pronouns are they, them, theirs. My mom's working on it. She's doing her best to work on it. I have to constantly remind people that, one, please don't misgender me, because I understand it's difficult, but I would respect you if you came to me and let me know. That's all I ask in return. Or just try. And if you don't know my pronouns, just say my name. It's that simple. Going to school and trying to navigate, I'm usually the only Black femme in my classroom because of video game design, digital media, gaming. I'm 500 ranked on Overwatch 2. You don't see that when you look at me, that I'm in that room. And I'm constantly, my teachers, usually white males, tell me, are you sure this class is for you? Why are you here? Don't you want to do something else? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And what does that mean when you're asking me, why am I here? Are you asking that why is a Black person interested in being a nerd? Is that what you're asking for? Are you asking me that why is a shade of my skin doesn't have me belong here? And these are constant things that you have to deal with when you step out into the world. I'm a prop maker, and I had to start hiding my gender because men would not think that I could make them a sword or that I could sew a cosplay for them, to a point where I had to start telling people, if you're gonna waste my time, because you see, like my mom said, once you hear me on the phone and then you see me in person, you're like, oh, you don't know what World of Warcraft is. If I don't know what World of Warcraft is, why would I have it promoted all over my page? Why would I waste your time and mine? It doesn't make any sense. And to constantly defend yourself as to be a nerd, as to watch anime, like I know what Dragon Ball Z is. Goku is not white, he's Japanese. Every single character that we have are Japanese, and they're being told that, well, you can't be that person because you're Black. First of all, honey, they aren't real. We bring you back to reality, because we know some of them fans be taking this a little bit too serious. Like, this is not real love. Like, go outside and touch some grass and read a book. Like, this is fantasy. But even in fantasy, we're met with, you aren't supposed to be here. The first Black woman just directed a Marvel movie, The Marvels. That was the first movie directed ever by a person of color in the Marvels. These things are just now happening in 2024, that we are just now entering the film space, as she's nodding and agreeing, because we're not allowed to be there. I was in cinematography for 2 years at LBCC. As I was talking to this gentleman over here, those boys tormented me. Sorry, I made a point at you, sweetheart. I'm right behind me, letting him know. Those men tortured me. Deleted my portfolio at the end of the year, would break my lighting sets apart, would rip things down that I was doing. And when I left my laptop open, I got my entire year of work just gone.
Just to be clear, those were boys.
Yes, they were
men. Those were boys.
Those are boys, as he's reminding me. Yes. And the constant question was like, what are you here for? Like, what do you know about music and cinematography and editing and syncing? I'm here to learn the same way you are. There's nothing about me that berates me from being here. And having to defend that when I do look like I'm 12 and I'm not, I'm very much so adult, I also get that factor too. Well, you're too young to be here. Like, you don't know how old I am. You don't even know who I am as a person. You're just seeing me as a femme. You see me as I'm Black. You see me as queer. You see me as useless. And that needs to be addressed. And often I'm in trouble because I'm the person who speaks up for the dark-skinned Black people who don't want to speak because they know they get elbow dropped harder. I got a case right now against LBCC because I told someone you cannot make fun of people who don't speak English correctly. We're adults in college classes, and you're mocking someone who can't speak English. And guess who got them out of class and in trouble? I don't care. I'll do it again. But it's just the point that why do I have to sit here and do this? And you see that it's wrong, and you don't address it. But if I was a white student, a little bit paler, and I did that, all hell would have broken loose. So I think my experience with race is that I always tell people, like, look around and correct people. Like, don't sit there at Anime Expo, Comic-Con, wherever you're playing Call of Duty and listen to people be nasty and be racist and not say it, because if you are not actively fighting against it, you're compliant. Because there's two types of evil people: people who see evil things and do nothing, and people who do evil things. What type of evil person are you? That's the real question asked. But I'm a rambler, but I hope that wasn't
All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can you guys hear me okay? But I know they see everyone's standing up there, walking around stage, projecting and stuff. I feel like I want to sit here, but I can stand up for you guys. How's everybody doing this evening? Did you guys enjoy the food? We enjoyed the food. Everything was good. Have you guys enjoyed the presenters thus far? Beautiful. Okay. My name is Sergio Vicente. I am obviously a part of the team here, but I am, again, what was that? Who's that? Sergio. Last name Vicente. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, like Vincent, almost. You know what I'm saying? Like Serge Vincent, but just with a little sazon on it. You know what I mean? But again, I am somebody, again, we're talking about this. We're talking about some people here being Afro-Latino. I am somebody who is Afro-Latino. I am Black. My father, born and raised in Atlanta, went to Morehouse, went to Howard. My mother, on the other hand, born in Puerto Rico, raised in New York and in Chicago. I am from Chicago. So I believe I have the best of both worlds when I look at it. When I look around and I see myself, I am very blessed. That not because we're talking about race and culture. When I think of race, I always think about culture. I'm so blessed to have these two cultures running through my veins. My parents did a phenomenal job of making sure that when I was young, we didn't just stay in Chicago. They took me down to Atlanta so I understood my culture and my people and everybody there. I'm very blessed that I also come from educated individuals. My grandfather is the founder and first president of Atlanta Metropolitan College. So, the great Benjamin Mays, who was the former president of Morehouse College, was the one who asked him to go and found that college. So I have a lot of predominant educators and people who were in the civil rights movement that are in my family, in my bloodline, and again, who were mentors to me. So when I also speak on that, on the other hand, so I was raised there, I had those opportunities. But then I come back to Chicago and I'm with my abuela. I'm with everybody in my family. We listen to, you know how it is in a Latin household on the weekends. That Sunday, mom, I don't care what, 7 o'clock in the morning, salsa's blasting. And she's cleaning the house, dancing. Bobby, come here, let's go, let's dance. That's how I was raised. And I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity to have both and understand what was going on. And especially when we're in a society as we are in today. We are in a type of society that makes you second guess who you actually are. We will sit back and we'll try to vilify who you are, make you not feel as comfortable or confident as who you are, especially because I like to say this, I feel like I'm one of the first generations of real generation of mixed kids. I was born in '86. I'm 38 years old. I know Black and Puerto Rican, as we see, don't crack. We're here, all right? I look fantastic, I know. I moisturize, scrub everything, we're good. But being that I was raised in that, I remember going to school and there weren't a lot of other mixed kids. There are only a handful. So getting all the discrimination, getting all of the not even, people just playing racist. They don't know, when they look at me, when people look at me, they don't know if I'm Black, they don't know if I'm Latin, they don't know if I'm Middle Eastern. I am the definition of racially ambiguous. And I remember having Black kids saying that you white, and I have Latin kids saying, tú eres de allá afuera. So for you guys who don't speak Spanish, you from out there. So I have both, and we're trying to, as a kid, growing up in that, and I'm sure you can relate, you're sitting there and you're searching for your identity. And you have an opportunity to sit there and try to find out, who am I? This group of individuals doesn't accept me. This group of individuals doesn't accept me. The white kids definitely don't accept me. So I'm over here trying to figure out who I am. And thank goodness that I had a family that instilled the values of who I am, making sure that I saw my grandmother on both sides and been able to actually, again, have the food, experience the culture and all of those things. But one thing that I think as a culture we need to do more of, there needs to be acceptance. But not only does there need to be acceptance, there needs to be opportunities for individuals to learn and people being open to learn about more. There's so much that we're cutting back from our educational systems, not explaining and telling people where they're from. And again, instead of actually elevating, because there's tribalism here in the States. You know, people come over here, don't matter where people can assimilate. Oh, I'm American now.
That's right.
Or again, my favorite, I'm not negro papi. I'm not black. I'm not black papi. Bro, you as black as my jeans. What do you mean? I'm not black papi. No. People are ashamed of who they are. And one thing that we need to do as a culture, as a community, is make sure that we're embracing everyone. We are not afraid. We are not these things. What? I have no idea. I'm sorry. You can talk to me. I'm about to talk to everybody in a second. We're about to let it open. So, yes.
On that topic,
yes.
This gentleman here has a nonprofit and a business that works with those sectors.
Beautiful.
And I just wanted to hand him the microphone right here and allow him an opportunity to explain to us some of the work that he's doing and some of the issues where he sees an issue and in the issues that we're discussing so that we can come to some solid solutions here.
There we go.
There you go. I stopped him from leaving.
Yeah, I'm driving. I got about an hour and 45 minutes to get home. So I was. Oh, you want me to come up? I don't. All right. No, I mean it's just I'm not going. This is.
Go ahead, bro.
You want me to stand up? So anywho, no. So my name is Juan Young. I am the program and community manager for an organization called Grid 110. Grid 110 is a nonprofit organization based in Los Angeles that runs entrepreneurial programs, particularly for our early stage entrepreneurs in Los Angeles. And 1 month into my role, but I've been seated in, thank you. Yeah, for sure. I worked at an early stage venture capital firm prior to that, and born and raised in Los Angeles. 103rd and Central is where I was born and raised. My mom ran a preschool for 20 years on 96th and Western. And so seeing the transformative power of education, as well as the transformative power of entrepreneurship, I think is one of the big things that I not only does education, I think the conversation earlier was a lot about, getting some young people into some spaces and providing opportunities to them. And also I'm a huge component of a person, when you don't have doors, sometimes you have to build your own, right? And so the conversation around race, equity, all of that stuff is very fitting for the work that we're doing, because the reality is sometimes there are not going to always be as many opportunities that are needed. And so what do we do in the lieu of that, right? When you don't have all of those pathways. And I believe that some of the work that we're doing is really important. And I also believe that entrepreneurship is going to be really big. So to take those skills that these young people are learning, to go get these amazing careers and now to have this disposable income and now say, you know what, I've been working to build this company for X amount of years. I have, something I'm extremely passionate about. And then where do they go? Where do they turn? And it was great to see the data earlier, to talk about, entrepreneurship and seeing the need in the data for people. Not only do we need education, we need entrepreneurial education, we also need capital. So we're excited for the work that we're doing. This conversation around race, equity is very fitting. As a kid who, she pulled me up because the story I shared, being a kid from Watts, who hopped on 2 buses to go to a private school an hour and a half away, as a 12-year-old ninth grader, when everybody else was about 14 years old and I'm about 2 years behind. But my experiences being a kid who was really nerdy and wanted to be in school and then getting in spaces where I was the only in a lot of those spaces, and with the expectation that I was going to bring what they thought of my community into those spaces. So I had to know the newest dances. I had to have all the cool shoes and the cool clothes and all of those things. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. And so I started to change who I was, right? I got into those environments and how some people will go into some spaces and, they may assimilate to those spaces. I did not want to be the kid who had to go back to my community and say, you're like them. So I said, I'll be what you wanted me to be. And so I turned up there and I became somebody I wasn't, in hindsight, I don't know who that guy was. Ended up having to leave and went to a different school, ended up graduating, went to Cal State San Bernardino, first generation college student. My brother followed along with me. But I just think this idea and the work that we're doing here is really great. These are rooms that I want to be in. And I wish that there were camera crews here. I wish that there were, this was the stuff that we would see when we turn on our TVs, because there are organizations here that are doing the work. There are organizations here that are really doing the groundwork to really change the communities. And then, thank you to you all for organizing this, because the access to the Capitol that all the organizations need is going to allow us to continue this work. So just thank you. And thank you for stopping me before I drove back to my house. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. With the time that we have left, Jay, is there anything, my friend, that you want to say to continue this conversation? We can obviously open it up to some questions or some comments as well, but where would you like to go with it? And we can continue facilitating this conversation for about the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, a few points. I don't know how quick I can make them. Just listening to you and feeding back some ideas. First of all, I think that, one of the important things that you heard from multiple people today is that we have to find a way to feel comfortable talking about issues of race, ethnicity, culture, and class. Right? And by the way, not everybody has the same points of uncomfortableness. Some folks may be very comfortable talking about race and not at all comfortable talking about class. Right? And we recognize that we also have to think about intersectionality. You heard folks talking about gender identity and how that also factors in, right? And the fact that ethnicity and culture play on people's identity and how they navigate the world, how they think about their families and their communities, right? And how you need to approach folks. And so, one of the things I think that constantly gets discussed when we talk about race is people wanting folks to choose a bucket. And I think that what you see with the current generation of young people is resisting that, not so much because they care so much about the way that race has been defined in the past, but more so because in an environment where people are being raised in intercultural households, sometimes being put in certain racial boxes makes it seem as though these young people aren't included in their own culture. And so they're also asking to be seen and respected and recognized in the same way that Amor was talking about being seen from a gender point of view, right? Secondly, I do want to point out, it's funny because we've had a number of different perspectives today about education. And I think as you start to talk to folks of a certain vintage, you will see that there are a variety of ways that people from disadvantaged backgrounds have carved out a lane of success for themselves. One of the challenges we all have is that when you've earned your success over a long period of time, taking a very specific pathway and investing all of your heart and soul into that, sometimes it's hard to imagine that there might be another pathway that's better for somebody else, that there's a way to be successful without being just like you. And so as these new opportunities or approaches, whether we're talking about apprenticeship or tech or, solar panels and alternative energy and so forth, as we talk about new ways to solve these problems, I think all of us have to be open not only to the new economic opportunities, but new ways of communicating with each other within the community and new ways of building and collaborating with each other. And the last point I want to make, because I heard the word ally a few times, is that allies are great. I personally am looking for solidarity, right? It's great to be an ally. it's great to be an ally and to, kind of provide moral support to say, yeah, that's right. But sometimes folks need you to come on over and stand next to them. Sometimes they need you to help paint a sign. Sometimes you need to go fix something that's broken, right? And so, we have to try to have some solidarity. When I was growing up, we would just call that having hood. I do think it's funny that we got so many folks from New York. I also am from New York, born in '69 and grew up in the '80s in Jamaica, Queens. So, we all have our own, right? But I think that you look at folks coming from different regions, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, Caribbean, Central America, South America. We all have our own journeys, our own family structures and communities. And you notice that we bring those with us, right? You don't know me. I'm from such and such, right? People tell you the street they from, right? I'm from 123rd. You don't know me, right? I'm representing the ATL, right? So we always bring our home with us wherever we go. I'm just inviting you to potentially extend your home to others. Help people find a way within your community so that we can build bridges and connect. Now, with that, I would ask, in the 7 or 8 minutes that we have left, if there are any comments, questions, suggestions from the other folks. You all have been so patient with the program and so attentive, and we appreciate it. If there's anything you want to share, now's the time.
So we're going to open it up to you guys. I would love to know any of your guys' thoughts. Again, Jay's open it up. What are your thoughts on this topic? Again, where we are talking about race. This is something that has been not only a hot button issue, it is something that a lot of people want to kind of shy away from talking about at times. We're not shying away from, we're going to lean into this moment. What do you guys feel? Again, let's open up the floor. If you guys have anything to say, if not, that's too cool too. My brother right here said, you've been talking a lot. I know you. We're going to talk to you in a moment. No, but we'll get you next.
I'm just a nervous guy with the mic. And when he thought about talking about race, we have one of the biggest races coming up this November. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, never been a woman, never been a minority woman. So that's a race that none of us has ever experienced. So I believe it's going to get kind of wicked, a little wild, but we need to prepare ourselves for whatever's going to go on in this race because of race. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Hello? Okay, so I got to start over? No. Yeah,
no, we heard you just fine.
About the race of the what's coming up, and then okay, tomorrow will be 99 days. But the second thing was we have a woman running for president, but then also we have a woman calling the authorities to come out and investigate a threat outside of her home, and then she gets killed. So what kind of race is that? You see what I'm saying? So just want to throw those 2 points in so we could be aware of what's really going on in today's site in 2024 with race. When you mention race and I can never pronounce that word, that geographic, what is it?
Geographic and racial.
Yeah, so y'all know. And I also want to commend the young people here because they are very articulate. They say, I didn't graduate school, I did this, or I ran from this, I did that. Mm-hmm. They are very articulate, and I'm impressed because you don't have to, it's not where you stop, where you start is where we're going to when you finish. Yes, so that's the part of life that you have to kind of like grab onto, set a goal for yourself. See, a lot of parents not really setting a goal. They just go to school. I heard you say go to school. And go to school and do what? And then what? No, I'm saying within the 4 years, the 6 years, the 8 years, the 10 years, because I know kids that want to just be a teacher, and then you got kids that want to be doctors. So it's 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, which they all said it costs a lot of money to do that. But once you reach that goal, see, goal never was put into the equation. You have to have a goal. That's the thing. You have to have a goal. When I first started wanting to buy property, I said, how much does it cost to buy a house? And then somebody told me, oh man, $5,000. So now I got a goal. So yeah, I started young too. Yeah, so you know, but 5,500 bought me the first 2 houses because the broker liked me. So if you have a goal, then that goal helps you kind of motivate you. I ask little kids, and I can ask the young people in this room too. And my dad said, a lot of your friends ain't got no money. If you check that speech, I said, well, what's no money? He said, ask them if they got $3,000. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm going to start off. Thank you.
We started in with Jay. We
Great
appreciate
night.
you.
There's a saying that my dad taught me. He says, the person that you think will help you in life will not. The person that you least expect to help you will. I've had a very blessed life. My beautiful fiance, great company. I work with all my friends and former students. I have the best life in the world. I'm not supposed to be here today. You look at my face, you may think I'm Armenian, you may think I'm white. My mother's last name is Tabakian. That's my last name. My dad's dad, my paternal grandfather, was an orphan. His entire family died from the plague, kind of like COVID, but 1918 times, right? He was adopted by the Tabakian clan. And it started a new bloodline. In my family, I have Ethiopian blood. And so I like to joke and say I'm a product of the International Buffet of Love. And it's true. I mean, my family is nuts. We've got people all over the world. And here's the thing, we don't have any divorces, just death, you know, either by war or by health. We're so blessed to live in this country. I've been everywhere. I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I've had a hell of a life. I've seen a lot of shit. And we all bleed the same color. I've seen it. And it sucks. And I really care about people. And so I'm so happy that we're all here today having these honest conversations. And we just need a lot more love. That's it. Because you know what? We come in this world naked, we leave naked, and if we just come to realize that life is short, we got to love each other and help each other be successful, and that's all it takes. It just takes a little bit of love, and that's how. Peace out, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Thank you guys so much for your time. We will be coming back on the 30th. Well, not back here, but on the 30th. We'll be at LA Valley on the 31st. We will be at Afro City Market at Crenshaw Mall. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Jay, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you, my brother. And we thank you all for coming today. Take care.